stay the out of this. This is Mexican Mafia business. When he's dead, we'll surrender. You got to be willing to kill and die and go to death row for this. The cops turn the keys. The Mexican Mafia turns the minds. They called it the gladiator school because you go there to learn how to kill. Murder is a very simple motivator. It's urban street terrorism. I don't care what ethnicity you are, you speak violence. LA County Jail is probably one of the most violent places you could ever do time at. You could survive there, you could survive anywhere. Very few Mexican Mafia members go through unscathed.
René "Boxer" Enriquez is the most infamous living member of the Mexican Mafia, the ultra-powerful Latino prison gang known as La M. René began his career with the Mafia while serving time at San Quentin in the early 1980s, and went on to become a member of La M's governing body inside the notorious Shoe Wing at Pelican Bay State Prison. René is one of a handful of MA leaders responsible for expanding the Mexican Mafia beyond prison and into the streets by uniting all of the Latino gang members in Southern California and imposing a tax on their neighborhood drug sales. To this day, the Mexican Mafia collects tens of millions of dollars a year through this extortion system, which they enforce with unimaginable violence. And that was René's legacy. He was at the forefront of this movement. In the early 2000s, while serving a life sentence for murder, René dropped out of the gang and went on to testify in dozens of mafia trials over the next 2 decades. To this day, he is still a marked man, and we therefore had to blur his face in order to protect his identity. René's got a best-selling autobiography which I highly recommend you check out, and a successful YouTube page where he dissects what the Mexican Mafia is up to today, in real time. Ladies and gentlemen, to call this a pleasure would be an understatement. Here to expose the secrets of the most fascinating criminal organization in modern times, it's René "Boxer" Enriquez, right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell. Or on the internet are going to see your face blurred, and for the haters that think I'm just talking to like AI, I mean, look, I can't even believe after reading your book and knowing your story that I'm talking to you right now. You're so soft-spoken and well-mannered. Were you always like this?
Not always. I was an asshole at one point in my life. I guess I just refined as I got older. I get softer and found peace. I think it's really about finding peace.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you were an asshole for a lot of years.
A long time. Yeah. My wife says I still am.
I mean, to be fair, I don't know you, so maybe you are an asshole. You have your moments, but it didn't need to be like this because you're from like a suburban middle class family, which is not like a lot of carnales that came from, the gutter, that come from the ghetto. What was childhood like?
Childhood, I mean, it was idyllic from the exterior, right? Lived in Thousand Oaks and Cerritos, California, little bedroom communities.
Yeah.
And my dad was an entrepreneur. He had a furniture factory and a liquor store and developmental real estate. So he was born in Clarkdale, Arizona. Then he went to Mexico, was raised there, and came to the United States with that American dream. My mom was from Jerez, Zacatecas, Mexico. And she came with the American dream. Both had previously been married, so they had separate families. But they married and achieved that dream. So I came from a solid family, right? But
yeah,
it was fraught. That was fraught with dysfunction by family. One of the things I never admitted in the book, because of shame, was sexual abuse in childhood. And I think that was the catalyst that drove me down the path towards this antisocial behavior.
From your father?
No, from my brother.
Your older brother?
My older brother.
Okay. That could explain it quite a bit. Do you think the excesses, because you're born in 1962, you start to use drugs and really kind of just be a rebel and a in the mid 70s. Do you think it was the excesses of the late 60s, early 70s and being in California and, just this kind of like liberalism and hippie culture? Do you think that bled over into your life?
Oh, definitely. This is post 60s free love, turn on, tune in,
right?
All that stuff, right?
That nihilistic, yes, anti-God culture.
It still existed in Cerritos, California. In fact, it was there that I developed that propensity for getting high. Drugs were everywhere, sex was everywhere, partying was everywhere, and it was like not a care in the world. You know, sometimes I'm driving where I live, and I'll be thinking back to a point where I remember a summer where I felt this breeze and I felt this warmth and I felt this freedom and not a care in the world other than when's the next kegger party? When's the next ditching party? Who's the next girl I'm going to be with? And that's all it was. I mean, in that era, I think it contributed greatly to my wayward path.
Right. But I get, keg parties and hooking up with girls. I did all that. But then the step to pulling drive-by shootings, like it wasn't that big of a leap, right? Like you went from doing drugs at 14 to by 16, you're, being a prospect in a local Latino street gang.
Actually, it began at about 12. My brother had joined a neighboring gang called Artesia, or Arta, A-R-T-A. And I saw those guys that were dressed nice. They had their cholo apparel all creased down. And they had this, what we call pegue. It's like magnetism, right? Chicks loved them. Dudes feared them. I was like, oh, man, I want that. And I used to hang out in the garage. My garage at our house in Cerritos was the party spot. Homeboys, homegirls, stoners, cheerleaders, whoever, they knew they can go score and party. And I used to hang out in the garage and watch all this. So I was allured towards that.
Yeah.
But I didn't get in the gang until I was about 12 years old. One instance where my brother was at his girlfriend's house down the street. And this is a seedier part of Artesia, California, in what we call the 190s. I was walking with two of my brother's homeboys, and they dragged me behind the gas station. And they said, we're going to jump you in the hood. And I was scared. I was just 12 years old. I said, no, no. And they beat the crap out of me. Boom, 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 boom. And I remember I was crying. And one of them picked me up. Bobby Guerrero picked me up, brushed me off, and says, homeboys, don't cry. You're a homeboy now. And I was a homeboy.
Wow. And that was the same brother who sexually abused you? Yeah. Also jumped you into the gang?
No, he wasn't part of the jumping in.
Okay. Yeah, it does seem like, because even today, MA exists, right? It seems like there's a lot of, wannabe MAs, wannabe young Latinos that are trying to get into gangs. And it doesn't seem driven by economics that much. Like if you want to make money, you try to get hooked up with a cartel. You don't join a gang that's you're almost guaranteed to go to prison for and have to stab somebody and you're guaranteed to get caught and probably do the rest of your life in prison. Like there's still people willing to go through that, to make that part of their life, right? Like there was just there's just a big Mexican Mafia bust here in LA back in April. So do you think people are drawn to that because of the pegue, because it's an identity? Like, or is it money? Like what drives people wanting to join a gang like the Mexican Mafia today?
I think there are multiple factors that contribute towards individuals adopting the ideology of the organization, right? Because they hail from the streets, from a neighborhood. And we were talking off camera a little while ago, and we talked about going to the NBA. You wanted to go to the NBA. That's the NBA for gang members. That's the bigs. Yeah. Like that's arriving, right? In your street gang, you get that reputation. You gain pega, you gain juice. You put in work for the hood. You're with girls. You sling a little dope. You make money. But then when you go to prison, you have to abandon that gang ideology and adopt the ideology of the organization, which means you're part of what is known as la causa, the cause, right? You can no longer have street conflicts, that you're part of a bigger organization, right? And you're a foot soldier. There's a hierarchical system. And for most guys, they surrender their autonomy and adopt that ideology to the point where they're willing to go to death row. A lot of it has to do with indoctrination, kind of like a brainwashing technique. Yeah. And it's very effective. I mean, the Mexican Mafia has been in existence for about 70 years, maybe more. And it's cultivated this relationship with street gangs over decades and decades of time. And there's a lot of mystique behind the organization. It'll always exist, and it can't be destroyed, because there'll always be a prison subculture, and people will always be doing life in prison. So there'll always be a pool of individuals to recruit from. Yeah. But not just anybody can get in. It's like probably one of the elitist prison gangs that there are.
Do you think it's as big now as it was back in the 80s and 90s in your heyday? Or what is the standing now? Like, what do you hear?
Well, it's grown exponentially. Like in my time, there was maybe 70, 80 members. Now there's about 125, 130 members. Let's say 140, just to be liberal, just in case we don't know about 5 or 10 that are out there. But it's grown exponentially. It's now a transnational criminal organization. It's not prison-centric. It's went through this. It's gone through this horizontal integration, right? Where the organization stops focusing on prisons and starts concentrating on the community, right? And that occurred in approximately 1992 when the Mexican Mafia stopped drive-bys in Los Angeles, California. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, this is crazy. So, and to think this existed just 40 years ago in California, in LA. So there was an epidemic of drive-by shootings, innocent people getting hit, right? And from all of these independent, little shithead gangs around LA. And yeah, tell us how the MA stepped forward and essentially made a pact with either it was the LAPD or the Sheriff's Department. You guys basically used your power to put a squash to that.
Yeah, the first concept came out, right? It was myself, Little Mo Ruiz, and Jaco Padilla were talking. And Little Mo Ruiz, we used to jokingly call him the brainstem because he wasn't too intelligent, right? So me and Jaco would joke and says, well, all he has is a brainstem, right? He doesn't have a fully formed brain, right? And he was like my ace cum boom. He was my right-hand man. Little Mo was so loyal, good friend of mine. And I don't say, I don't speak about this in a derogatory sense, right? It's just how we joked about him. But he popped out one day and said, let's stop the drive-bys. After we had seen on the news multiple instances where babies were getting shot and collateral damage, really, in these drive-bys. And the worst perpetrator of this was 18th Street, with the predominant gang in Los Angeles. They were committing these acts, and we were taken aback by it. Old ladies getting shot, civilians getting shot, little kids getting shot. So I took the idea and I pitched it to the then acting commissioner, Chuco Castro, and Wadoshai Shrayak, Black Dambarella, all these brothers that were on the streets, about 10 Mexican Mafia members are paroled. I was in the county jail fighting 2 murders. And my first idea was, I gave it to a senior and a senior deputy sheriff in the Los Angeles County Jail who worked in high power. And I told him, I says, hey, what can we do about this? And he says, we can provide a venue and an auditorium. We'll provide security. So I called the brothers up and I got admonished for it. What are you doing? Talking to the cops about this? Don't talk to the cops. We're not going to use them. We're going to do it. And we developed it. We started pushing it. Mexican Mafia started having meetings where thousands of gang members would show up at these what we call juntas, Junta. It's a meeting in Spanish. And there were a couple of rules: can't bring guns, no cameras, none of that stuff, right? And it flourished. That's where the program was initiated. So you're looking at a prison gang, a bunch of knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing thugs, zero education, that have this status, this mythical status, that are finally in prison, out of prison, and they're interacting with gang members. For the gang members, it's like, oh my God, that's my rep. That's a real Mexican Mafia member speaking to me. So it provided like a status mobility system for gangs, right? Mm-hmm. So the concept was, hey, you're going to become part of this. You're going to work with us. You're going to rep your hood. You're going to collect taxes from all illicit activities, and you're going to give us a portion in tribute. So it was a perfect system. It was like the perfect storm because LA was fraught. I think there were like 1,900 homicides that year in Los Angeles alone. Yeah, and it began, and now it's like perfected. There's this perfected technique, which is still called the program, where people pay tribute to the organization every month.
Okay, and that really worked to curb drive-by shootings and innocent people getting killed too.
It did in a sense.
Obviously, it's not perfect.
It's not perfect. There was a lot of variations to that, a lot of violations of the rule. And then the Mexican Mafia used that to make money again.
Of course. Like, it's all, at the end of the day, it was all self-serving.
All self-serving. Because it was cloaked in this morality, right? Hey, we're not for women and kids getting shot, right? But behind that, on the seedy underbelly of it was like, hey, we can make some dough doing this.
Right.
And that's really what it became. So even though there was a stopping of the drive-bys, moratorium, gangs are still doing it. So the Mexican Mafia would then green light that gang, tell all the neighboring gangs, hey, that gang violated the rule. They're on the green light list. So all the neighboring gangs, they would go shooting at them. Mm-hmm. People were eliminated. And the Mexican Mafia, then a rep would come forward from those gangs. Say, how do we stop this? How do we get off of this? Pay us $20K. Pay us $5K, or give us 2 pounds and 10 guns or whatever.
Right.
And really, it started off minuscule. It started off with a pittance, $500 here, $200 there, but cumulatively, it's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And today, it's a lot of money. It's a powerhouse.
So tell us about the program.
The program is this. The program is double-ended, right? The first one is the taxation of gang territories, right? And we don't use that phrase because it's so abrasive. Like, we're going to tax you. Nobody likes to be taxed.
Taxes, yeah.
Nobody likes taxes. It's not just the tax-paying Americans. Right. Gang members don't like it either. So it's like a tribute. Like, you're going to take care of these brothers. If you could show some love, show some love. And they use that euphemism, right?
Piso. They call it in Mexico. It's like a piso. It's a quota.
Yeah. It's here. It's like a regalo, like a gift, right? Yeah. We call it a regalo or feria. But they give X amount every month to the local representative for the gang, which is a member of that gang, and then he pays up to the secretary or the crew chief. And that individual then pays the Mexican Mafia member.
Okay, so is the crew chief a part of the Mexican Mafia, or are they all just associates until it gets to the boss who's probably sitting in prison in the shoe?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions there are about the Mexican Mafia is that the Mexican Mafia is just in prison. The gangs that you deal with are the infrastructure of the Mexican Mafia. So all those people, they're not Mexican Mafia members. You got to be a made guy to say you're a carnal. A carnal is a made guy. But without this infrastructure, without the gangs to effectuate edicts and the desires of the organization doesn't exist. So the real power is not the carnales and the made guys. It's the street gangs. Mm-hmm. They're the program.
Right. That's what is effectively the Sureños, is a collection of all of these Southern California street gangs that pay an arreglado to, the made guys, mm-hmm. who are the Mexican Mafia. And that's that elite group. That's why you call yourselves the NBA of gangs. Mm-hmm. Okay, so are there actual made guys, MA official carnales on the street today?
Yeah, there are members in Los Angeles, California, in Mexico. There are a variety of different places.
But if there's only 150 total, how many could there be on the street?
About five.
So these guys are like real bosses, like millionaires.
No, I wouldn't say that. There's an elite group of carnales in the organization that make real money. But millionaires, you look at the organization cumulatively, the finances generated, you got guys taking down $50,000 at a pop, at $25,000 at a pop. They have ties with cartels. You have one Mexican Mafia member in Mexico, Bala, from Pomona 12. He's running Mexico, and he runs with the cartels. Mm-hmm. And another thing, people think that the Mexican Mafia is just these members, these few members, right? And it's something I pointed out earlier in the interview, where everybody that paroles from prison and that has illegal status, that doesn't have citizenship in the United States, is deported back to the country of origin. Mm-hmm. And typically that's Mexico. So everybody paroling from the Department of Corrections and the federal BOP are deported from Mexico. And who picks them up as soon as they get off the bus? Mexican Mafia. So they have crews of individuals working for different cartels, right, in different plazas. And in turn, they send product to California, Arizona, different states in the United States. So you have very powerful Mexican Mafia members. In Mexico, you have very powerful Mexican Mafia members in California as well.
And what you guys have done, the way that this small group of elite gang leaders is able to get all of these disparate street gangs to pay a quota every month from their drug sales, their robberies, extortion, prostitution, whatever they're doing, ultimately is the brand that you've built, right? Not the brand like the AB, but like your mystique, I call it a brand. Like you're the Pepsi Cola of gangs, but ultimately that's from how violent you guys were.
It's based on that. And you hit on something, a key point, right? Contemporary marketing, right? What is the number one thing in a brand recognition?
That's right.
What is the brand recognition for the Mexican Mafia? The black hand. And
what you had on your chest.
The one I had on my chest, the iconic one that everybody Googles and everybody uses in their YouTube. Every news media has used it.
We'll probably use it for this episode. So
it's brand recognition. And what is the next step is adaptability to the market. When the Mexican Mafia was in the chute, adapted. It created communication methods. It utilized an infrastructure. It created a mess of ad hoc representatives in general prison population yards to represent the made members who were slammed down in complete isolation. And then once they got released from the chute, it was the use of smart technology, conference calls, spoofing apps, iPhones. So the Mexican Mafia is evolving, right? It's evolving and it's becoming a true criminal syndicate. It is a true criminal syndicate, but there are some drawbacks to the organization as well.
Which are?
Drug use, infighting, politicking, no centralized leadership. You have a group of guys that are gang members, right? And they go to prison first they get kicked out of their houses, right? Let's say they get kicked out of the house. They get kicked out of schools for violating the rules. Then they get kicked out of the community for breaking the rules. And then they go to prison, and they get into this prison setting, and they go to the shoe for violating the rules. Then all of a sudden, they get sponsored into the organization, they make their bones, and they're inducted into the mob. And they're given these rules that they're going to follow. How is it possible for a person who's been a rule breaker their entire life to follow these rules? So there's all kinds of distortion of the rules.
Yeah, it was always like that.
It's always been and always will be. Imposition of sanction for a rule violation is really dependent on your socio-political status within the organization. So if you got palabra, you can break any rule you want. But if you don't have juice, then you're going to get whacked.
Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. You guys, I podcast once a day, sometimes 2 times in a day. This is 6 or 7 hours of being in the studio. After I'm done, I'm exhausted. I stumble home to my kitchen with no food in it. The last thing I want to do is cook. I also don't want to order DoorDash and have some $55 cheeseburger delivered to me and the driver ate the fries. It's impossible. Thank God for HelloFresh. It's perfect for guys like me and people like you, busy on the go. Maybe you have a family and you just don't have time to cook, but you want to eat healthy. This is where HelloFresh will change your life. With HelloFresh, it makes cooking effortless, so you can always look forward to a homemade meal. And no 2 meals will be the same. Choose from 80+ global recipes every month: Vietnamese, Moroccan, Caribbean, and more. Try unique flavors like lemongrass, gochujang, and curry paste that are pre-portioned for you. And cravings shouldn't wait for takeout. Get international ingredients sent straight to you, so dinner is always the destination. I'm telling you, home cooking is the best. HelloFresh, do it up. I've been using HelloFresh for years, getting my meals delivered. It saved me countless hours of not having to go to the grocery store or cook. Go to HelloFresh.com/connect10FM now to get 10 free meals. Plus, check it out, drumroll, free breakfast, free gratis for life. Free breakfast for the rest of your life just by going to HelloFresh.com/connect10FM. That's HelloFresh.com/connect10FM to get 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life. 1 per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. You guys were not afraid to kill a rival or one of your own guys in front of the cops. I mean, tell the story about the stabbing that you committed in the visiting room at LA County Jail.
That was Salvador Monbuenostro.
Who was a boss. He was like a real big-time MA guy.
Yeah, there's egalitarian. It's egalitarian in the organization, right? Not anymore. There's a commission now. It's called a MESA, right? a ruling group of individuals who push policy and deconflict a bunch of stuff. But no one man has complete authority over another Mexican Mafia member. One carnal can tell another carnal, hey, you're going to do this or you're going to suffer for it. That doesn't happen.
Right.
There's too many egos involved in the organization for that. But in the county jail, while I was there fighting my 2 homicides, there was a political campaign against Daniel Cuate Grajeda, a despised member of the organization because he was such a horrible politicker. He would, and we call politicking, it's like campaigning to get somebody eliminated. He had done this multiple times to multiple made members and had them eliminated. Well, during this process, he got stabbed by a guy named Henry Carlos Indio. I ended up stabbing Indio at a later date. But Cuate felt that somehow Mon Buenostro was behind his stabbing, and he knew he was political opposition. So he was housed with Joe Morgan. Joe Morgan, who everybody calls Peg Leg. We never called him that. He was housed with him in 2904. It was an extreme isolation unit in LA County Jail. And he started whispering in Joe's ear, hey, Mon's talking bad about you. Mon's politicking on you. The guy we're going to eventually stab in the attorney room, their visiting room. So he gets to Joe's ear, and for some reason, Joe loved this guy. This guy could do no wrong. He just blind loyalty to Cuate Grajeda. So he gives him the green light. Mon's got to go. And I don't find out about it until about a month later, when they're actually going to go try to hit Mon in the visiting room. There's a failed attempt. Benjamin Topo Peters takes out a handcuff key and a shank to the visiting room because you're handcuffed during the visits.
I got to stop you right there. So you guys are shackled, and you're able to get out of your shackles with a handcuff key. How do you get the handcuff key? How does that work?
I had a handcuff key. I had hacksaw blades. I had a 22.
A 22 gun?
Yeah, zip gun.
In the LA County Jail?
Yeah, we tried to kill somebody with it.
Okay, and a handcuff key is, you can just procure that from the street, and if you fiddle enough with the cuffs, you'll be able to get them off? Is that it?
Legit handcuff key. You just have them smuggled into the county jail. We'd have people turn themselves in, come to the visiting room with alcohol in their breath, and process through a visit. Hello, officer. How you doing? Just so they smell it, right? And, oh, you're under arrest. And they take them right to booking front. Little do they know, they're packed. Their rectums are filled with contraband.
Right.
And we have somebody waiting in there. We know who they are, when they're coming, when they get arrested, or somebody's going to turn themselves in for a traffic violation or whatever. And we had trustees that work down there. And we tell them, as soon as you see that guy, get that and bring it to us. So we got stilettos. I had 6 rounds to a long-range rimfire 22, the firing mechanism, and the barrel, which we tried to eliminate a Mexican Mafia member with. But during this process for eliminating Mon, killing Mon, they try. Benjamin Peters tries. He tries to take off the handcuff key, but his little short arms won't reach the keyhole, right? And he has a real key, he has a good knife, and he doesn't do it. So then he comes to me and says, hey, can we make this happen? And yeah, I can make it happen. I'm going to have my attorney, when he comes and sees me, pull out these guys as material witnesses. I'm going to be in that attorney room, and my buddy, Benjamin Topo Peters, who's now deceased, is going to be the participant with me, right? And they're going to be chained up to the thing. I'm going to be chained up, but we have handcuff keys. He doesn't. And we do it. We do it. We go in there, and we really put a hurt into him.
Okay. You guys would, in order to get close to a guy, a target, because again, you guys got to remember, you guys are in isolation. Like, you're already like known, validated gang members. You're not on the main line most of the time. So the way that you're able to get targets physically next to you is by having your lawyer subpoena them as a witness for your case, and therefore they have to let that person into like a visiting room or an attorney room. Is that how you're able to do it?
Yeah, once we get them in the county jail through subpoena, the power subpoena, right?
That's fascinating.
We pull guys down from prison.
Yeah.
And we have them there. And guys like to come down and make money because the county jail is a money-making factory, right?
Yeah, we're about to talk about that.
And so we pull them down there, and if they got to go, they got to go. That's one of the reasons we use it. Like, okay, that guy's got to go. Bring him down here. We'll whack him when he's here.
Right.
And
okay, so you get Buen Rostro into the attorney room with you. Your attorney's there, present. Is a guard in the room?
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
You guys don't think like, oh, I could get in trouble for this.
No, it's death row attitude, right?
Right.
That's one of the things you have to have. That's one of the things that was taught to me. Is you got to be willing to kill and die and go to death row for this. And I said, okay, let's do it. In fact, that was my desire to go to death row. I was fighting the death penalty when I was fighting my murders because it was called a special circumstances case. And so I didn't care. I already thought I was going to death row. Like, yeah, why not? And the one thing, I think because I had such low self-esteem, that was that facade, right?
Right.
The false bravado. And I would display it whenever I could, however I could. And that was a way to display it, right? So yeah, they bring this guy in, and we already had it coordinated. He's going to uncuff first and stab the guy. So I'm in the booth, and I remember sitting, because they have these booths. They're private attorney booths. They're all plexiglass. And they have these rows with benches in them. That's where the other people sit, sign papers, and they're in the front row. The booths, they're just benches, and there's this simple partition in front of them. You can reach over and touch your attorney, whatever. I'm in the private booth, and next to me is a guy named Mike Berman. He's an Israeli guy. His uncle worked for Lowell Bergman for 60 Minutes. Okay. That was his uncle. And his other uncle worked for the embassy. It was a big shot in the embassy, right, for Israel. And I remember Mike being there, a good friend of ours. And he sees me. I slip off my shoe. And he's watching me. Because the partition is only blinded out from the side. The rest is all plexiglass, so you can look right through. And he's as close to me as you are. And he's watching me. And his attorney's just chatting along, not realizing what's happening. And I slip off my shoe, and I pull out a big old shank. And he looks, and his eyes got like 50-cent pieces. So it's okay. And he sees me take off my handcuff and my leg iron. And he's like, oh, my God, something's going to happen. You could see it in his face, this trepidation, this sheer terror, right? And I told him, it's cool. And I'm just looking at him, and I hear, hey, hey. And I know it started. So I jump up. I didn't even put on my shoe. And I'm slipping around a corner because it's all tile, linoleum tile. And I finally get to the row, and Mon already has Topo on the ground. Mon's already dominating Topo. Mon was a martial artist guy, and somehow Topo had only stabbed him once. Stabbed him in the head and the knife bent, right? So I come up behind Mon, and I start just pounding all the way to the hilt. Overhand swings with a knife that's about that big, about 2 inches wide. And it's just hitting him. I feel I could hear it, the grunting.
Where are you hitting him?
Chest, side, stomach, back, buttocks, everywhere. And I'm just going to town. And he turns around and does some crazy kung fu kick and just lays one in my face, like boom. And I saw stars. So I know I gotta incapacitate this guy immediately, right? Even though he's chained up, he's fighting. He has Topo on the ground. He's on top of him, kneeling on him, and kind of kicking back with his foot. So I just go on top of him. I take him down, and I have his whole side opened up. His whole side's opened up, and I just start opening up on him. Just rooting into him, just boom, boom. And then the attorney room floods with cops. 415. 415 means disturbance, right? And you hear it, bing, bing, the alarm going off, 415, attorney room. And they start piling in, like 50 cops. And there was a female officer, McDuffie, her name was. Blonde, beautiful, blue eyes. Gorgeous, like gorgeous.
Yeah.
And she was cool with us, right? And she comes in and she starts hitting me in the head. Her and a guy named Zimmerman. Zimmerman's kicking me. He's kicking me, and those are the two in it, right? McDuffie and Zimmerman. Zimmerman's kicking me, and she has this little leather book. You ever see when you get pulled over and a cop pulls out his leather book to write your ticket? She has that. She's hit me in the head with the corner of it, and it's hurting me. So I stand up, and I tell him, hey, leave us alone. It's none of your business. I don't say it that calmly. Obviously, I'm dropping the F-bomb, like, stay the out of this. This is Mexican Mafia business. When he's dead, we'll surrender.
And you said that a couple of times, like recurring times, like when you would get ready to hit a guy on like the transport bus, you would tell the cops, look, we're not here to with you. Just let us kill this guy and then we'll surrender. It's not a big deal.
Not a big deal. It's his business. It's just business, right? And we're telling them that, like, this does not involve you. But they're being heroic. In fact, McDuffie, and I think that's her name, McDuffie, and Zimmerman, freaking heroes. They saved that guy.
So you think you would have killed him?
Oh, I know he would have. I thought he was dead already. That's the only reason I stopped. Because Topo was incapacitated on the ground. All I heard from Topo was this weird noise he was making. Because every time I would come down on Mon, it was the full weight. And Mon was on top of him, so I guess all the weight was going on Topo,
right?
Benjamin, right? And he was making this noise like, like a duck. If it wasn't so serious, I would have laughed. Yeah. And so we keep doing this. We keep doing this. And then Zimmerman kicks me a good one. And I get up and I brandish a knife towards him. I says, don't get involved. We'll be done here.
Yeah.
And McDuffie's screaming, you're killing him. Stop. Stop. Lay down. Get down. And I just go right back to it. At about this time, I'm drenched in blood. I got blood in my mouth. I could smell the blood, that wet, coppery, wet penny smell. Pennies, yeah. It's just got a rank odor. It's distinct, right? So we're saturated. The floor is all smeared up with blood, and he's down already. He's not fighting anymore. And you could hear him yelling, "Get him off of me, please! Get him off of me!" And then I give him a couple more, boom, boom, boom. And he just goes, kind of limp. And I said, okay, he's done. So I stand up. Topo says, okay, he's dead. Like something of that nature. I'm paraphrasing, right? He's dead. And I'd say, okay, I stand up. I look at them and I throw the knife and they vamp on me. Boom. They converge on me and they throw me to the ground and Zimmerman puts me in cuffs. And then when I'm cuffed, I'm laying prone on my stomach. He socks me in the eye. He socks me in the eye and says, you're a coward. And I just got enraged. I remember, like, how dare you put your hands on me? And I told him, I said, I'm going to kill you. I said, you just up. And I'm pumped. Like, the adrenaline's going. We just whacked this guy. And this cop has the audacity to sock me in the eye and call me a coward. So they got to take us to the hospital, right? They take this guy, they airlift him out. And they take him to give him surgery, all that stuff, right? But they got to take us to medical because we're covered in blood. During the process, I stabbed Benny Peters in the hand.
Who's Benny Peters?
The guy who was my co-defendant in this case, okay. Topo.
Right, Topo.
I stabbed him in the hand, and they take us to the hospital, and they're checking us out. They strip us out, and I see him right there. I said, "You're through." I said, "You just up." I said, "You don't realize it, yes, but you're going to realize it real quick." And you can see now he's thinking like, oh, shit. I just socked up a main mob guy who was handcuffed. And a captain comes out. The captain comes out and is talking to Topo. And the captain comes to me and say, René, calm down. It's over. That's it. He's dead. You guys did your thing. It's over. Please don't target my officers. He socked me in the eye. Excuse my language.
No, please. I encourage.
Please more? Please more?
I encourage, please more. Please, sir, may I have another?
So I tell him, no, this dude socked me in the eye and called me a coward. I says, I'm going to have him killed. I tell the captain this. And you see the captain, he's like shook up. He shook up. The cops don't get threats. We don't target cops. We don't target cops, ever. But he put his hands on me, right? And I'm doing mafia business. And I told him, said, nothing to do with you, bro. Let me kill this guy and I'll surrender. Yeah. And he insisted upon being a hero, which I'm thankful for. Mon survived, right? He saved Mon's life, literally. And so the captain goes back over there and he's huddling with the lieutenant and the sergeant and Topo. So all of a sudden they bring Topo to me. Topo's all stitched up. We're in the infirmary, and I'm still sweating, dripping sweat, and we're still covered in blood. And Topo says, "Hey, be cool. Calm down. It's over. He's dead. He's dead. It's over." And I'm telling him about the cop. He's like, give him a pass, give him a pass. It's no biggie. It's no biggie. So I looked at the captain and I begrudgingly, I tell him not to worry about it. Wow. And then they took us and they isolated us. We ended up in court the next day. They ran us that quick.
Yeah.
We were at court the next day. And there's some footage somewhere that shows us going into court for that attempted murder. Mon survived.
That's right.
Mon survived.
So you guys, the way that you treated authority when you were in prison was almost like you were equals. It was like, we are mobsters. This is what we do. We're not going to f with you guys. It was that, most people go in and they're completely, even tough guys are completely subservient to this, the authority of the state, right? The guards and the judges and the laws. You guys had no regard for that. And that's probably what gave you the most power, was a complete disregard for your own lives. Because you're like, yeah, I'll kill this guy in front of the cops and I'll go to death row. It means the end of your life. But it's like, well, that's all right. That's what I do.
That's really what it was. See, you got to understand that the cops run the prison. They control the prison. We control the prisoners. They don't control the prisoners. We control the prisoners. And that's the one thing that they understood. Every prison in the state of California, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, the BOP understands that the organization controls the prisoners. They turn the keys. The Mexican Mafia turns the minds. And that's the power of the organization. Because if as simply as saying, kill that guy, Sureños and Southsiders will go kill that guy at the request of a Mexican Mafia member, they would do the same thing to cops if it was required by the Mexican Mafia.
But you guys try not to do that.
After business.
Of course.
In fact, the Ashker Brown Accord with the Mexican Mafia, Aryan Brotherhood, Black Guerrilla Family, and the Nuestra Familia is part of a bigger agreement to reduce staff assaults in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Huge settlement where all the Mexican Mafia and all prison gang members were released to the general prison population yards.
So you negotiated that. You meaning the top guys at La Mesa and the other heads of the biggest gangs negotiated that deal with the California prison authorities?
No. But we were in the first peace talks. The first peace talks occurred in 2000 after the biggest riot in the history of California.
At Pelican Bay.
At Pelican Bay State Prison.
Everybody's seen that footage.
Where the guy gets his brains blown out. Myself, Jaco Padilla, and Danny Pina, all Mexican Mafia members, went and sat before the warden of Pelican Bay State Prison, Warden Robert Ayers, who I recently had a conversation with, Brian Perry, the Director of Corrections, the Assistant Director of Corrections, who I recently had dinner with, and Senator Tom Hayden's Chief of Staff, and I believe it was George Palanco's Chief of Staff. We had negotiations with these people. Right. That we could bring a peace accord throughout the state of California.
Just release our leaders from the SHU. Let us go.
Exactly.
Let us go program with the general population.
Exactly. But during this process, we told them, we can't do this unless you allow us to speak to every prisoner in Pelican Bay State Prison. And they went for it. They let us walk around the entire prison. You see groups of 3 BGF members, groups of 3 AB members, groups of 3 Mexican Mafia members going to each pod in the SHU. The only time in history it's been done.
And you sons of bitches, of course, use that time to not negotiate peace, to give murder orders, to sell drugs.
Yes. We were passing dope. In fact, in that process, the same guy, Daniel Grajeda, that pariah in the organization, had to go. We had a couple of targets. We finally narrowed down where the infighting was come from 2 individuals, from Daniel Grajeda, Cuate, from La Rana, and Angel Valencia, Stump from Sangra. These 2 Mexican Mafia members were creating so much dissension within the organization. They created a division within the organization. So myself and Danny Pena, discussed killing one of those individuals on the table in front of the senator, the warden, and the director of corrections. So we're going to have this. You have to pull this guy out today during this negotiation. He's a key component, but our whole objective was to kill him. It was Jaco Padilla who got scared. You could see the terror in his eyes. Oh my God, no, we'll never get out of the hole. And it's, bro, this is the business we got to do. We'll never get a chance to eliminate this guy. We're in shoe forever. Let's kill him now. We have a chance to kill him right now. Let's do it. He's a cancer. And Jocko, like, he bitched out of it. Just straight bitched out of it. Danny Pena was a gamer. Danny Pena, Danny Boy from Hazard, he was a gamer. Like, he said, let's do it. We'll get him around the top of the table. We'll whack this guy. But yeah, we were using that time to pass messages, putting people on the hit list, deconflicting a bunch of stuff.
Talk about the system called where you choose to represent yourself. What is the thing that you guys used? Say you were in LA County Jail, right? You were fighting death penalty cases, bodies in the early 90s. What was the system you used? Like, if you wanted to have a guy killed and he was in Corcoran State Prison, how would you get that guy down to LA County Jail? Explain that whole system that you guys, the legal loophole that you guys manipulated to obviously run your rackets, but also get close to a target to stab him and kill him.
So they have a process called subpoena deuces take them. And you can subpoena anybody or any record down to court as part of your defense. And we would utilize that. You could represent yourself in propria persona, which means you could represent yourself.
Right.
Because everybody has the right to any legal representation they can afford. If they can't afford it, it'll be appointed to you. And if you don't want that, you can represent yourself. But there's an old saying, only a fool has himself for a client. Mm-hmm. And I had myself for a client. I represented myself in the stabbing case that I caught in the courthouse. I caught a stabbing in the courthouse as well.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was Henry Carlos. Henry Carlos had previously stabbed Daniel Grajeda, and he did rightfully so. I gotta put that caveat out there right now. What Henry Carlos did in stabbing Daniel Grajeda was absolutely correct. Cuate Grajeda had threatened him, sent him a kite, and told him that the sky was going to fall on him because he wasn't doing what Cuate was asking. Like, Cuate had the belief that he was running the county jail. Because of his association with Joe Morgan, he believed that Joe Morgan gave him the permission to be the boss of bosses in the county jail. And the Mexican Mafia doesn't have that. And Joe Morgan didn't have that authority. No Mexican Mafia member does. So Cuate was functioning under the belief that he was the boss and was threatening brothers. And Indio Carlos took action, stabbed him in the shower. Indio's only mistake, Henry Carlos's only mistake, was that he didn't kill him when he had the chance. He had Cuate Grajeda on the ground, naked, in the shower, stabbing him repeatedly, but let him up.
And that's technically a violation, right?
No. I mean...
Because doesn't that show cowardice?
Henry was no coward.
Okay.
Henry was no coward.
So why did you have to feel like you had to stab him?
Because the brothers asked me to. Black Dan Barella and the brothers there at the time told me, yeah, let's get this done. He's got to go. Cuate had started a campaign against him, saying that Henry Carlos was stalking him in the law library, that was going to stab him again. Another political ploy, right? So I take on the mission, and they asked me to take Aryan Brotherhood John Stinson on the hit. And but somehow I knew, in my immature political mind, I knew that if I did that, I wouldn't survive it politically. Because here I'm bringing an outsider, which may have been viewed okay, but I wasn't going to take that risk because Cuate was already having a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So I excluded John from the hit. I subpoenaed Henry that day, and I went that day to court, and we're on the 13th floor at the criminal courts building in Los Angeles, California. And as soon as they brought him in the tank, I already had a knife. I had like a 6-inch knife, metal shank. They walk him into the tank, and I start stabbing him. I stabbed him like 30 times. And it wasn't until they pulled out a gun, one of them said, "Get the gun, pull out the gun." That's when I stopped. I ran to the toilet, and I threw it away. Much to his credit, I had Henry Carlos pinned on the benches, and I was stabbing him. And much to his credit, as soon as I went and flushed the knife, he stood up and looked at me and says, "You ain't done shit," and walked out of there. I give that man credit. He was gangster. Henry Carlos is a gangster. You got to give it to him because he withstood the storm. A lot of Mexican Mafia members would have checked in, went PC, and cooperated after that. He didn't. he weathered it.
Today's episode is also sponsored by Shopify. Shopify is the platform we use here at The Connect when we have a merch launch or other products that we're trying to get out to our people. If you've been sitting on a business idea, Shopify makes it easy to finally make it happen. Everything you need to start selling is already there from day one, so you can stop overthinking and start building. Literally A to Z, Shopify can handle everything for you. One of the biggest hurdles for any business is just getting started. But after that, it's getting paid. And Shopify has that covered. Shopify Checkout helps more customers complete their purchases, and when they come back, their information is already saved. Data is the new oil. Data is the digital gold. They save your customers' data with one tap, and you're done. That's the kind of experience that can turn browsers into buyers. And once the basics are handled, you get more time to focus on what actually grows the business: your product, your content, your customers, and your brand. Shopify gives you the tools to scale up without getting stuck in the technical setup. You guys have heard of Shopify. They're the world's largest e-commerce platform. With Shopify, nothing stands between your idea and a real business. So go make it one. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/Mitchell. That's shopify.com/Mitchell for a fully free trial. Shopify.com/Mitchell.
Explain to people why it's so difficult to kill somebody with a 6-inch knife, because you stabbed a lot more people than you actually killed.
Sure. I mean, when we say whack, it just means to try to kill them, right?
Right.
But then there's whacking and taking them out, right?
Right.
Yeah, I stabbed quite a few people during my career as a Mexican Mafia member, but it's so difficult because the weapons are inferior.
Right.
You don't have Bowie knives, and
you don't have a Ginsu.
You don't have a Ginsu, and you don't have butcher knives. You have these roughly hewn metal pieces that are sharpened on the floor, and you have a fraction of time to effectuate this hit, right? You're doing the hit, and they're on you. So that's in the county jail. In the state, they have lethal coverage. They have a Ruger 223 that they shoot you with it, right? They shots are fired for effect. They'll blow your brains out. They've done it multiple times.
Yeah.
So it's not through lack of effort or desire that these people survive. Maybe the Lord's with them if you're religious, or it just isn't their time. But a lot of people survive these hits. A lot don't. In the last 2 years, there have been 108 murders in the state of California. That's the Department of Corrections, inmate homicides.
Yeah.
So people do die.
And that's in the modern day.
That's in modern day, like 108 murders in 2 years in a small population.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge.
Okay, so going back to how you first made your bones and became, a full carnal, when was the first time you actually killed somebody? Was that on the streets or in prison?
It's on the streets.
Okay. All right, so I want to back up a little bit and talk about how you actually became a fully made member. How did you first catch a body, go to prison, and then start getting groomed by the MA?
So I went to the county jail, went for robberies, and I just started learning about what a sureño was, because I wanted to stab some rival gang members in the county jail. Those guys had shot at my house. And I saw one of them, and I told somebody, I want to whack that dude. Give me a knife. And they told me, no, you can't do that, dude. So what do you mean I can't do it? He shot at my house. It's my enemy. And they told me, no, you can't. You're a sureño now. You're part of la causa, right? I said, what is that? So, well, these guys downstairs, those guys are the bosses. And that's when first introduction to the Mexican Mafia, right?
And is it in LA County Jail?
LA County Jail. And even then, they were talked about in hushed undertones and whispers. It wasn't like this overt thing like today. Like they're on social media. Mexican Mafia is on social media. Go figure, right?
Yeah.
And but back then, it was like really a secretive thing. The organization really was a secret criminal organization.
Right.
But they still controlled everything behind the scenes. And that was my first introduction towards it. Then I went to Soledad State Prison after processing in Chino, and I met Black Dambrella. He was in ADSEG. I was in ADSEG as well. And he sent me a note and some Camel cigarettes and a greeting card and wrote me a note. And I was like, wow, a Mexican Mafia member really wrote me a note. I'd only heard about these guys. Myth. They were like mythical, figures to us. And I finally get to San Quentin, and I actually meet the mobsters, right? And I have no aspirations of being a mobster. I don't see myself as that at all. I had never done a hit before at all. So I go to San Quentin. They start having me get knives for them, and
they're on the main line in San Quentin.
They're in North Block, what was called Max B. Okay. This is like prior. They had Shoe, which is called Max A, but they had different terminology for it back at the time. There's like 2 levels of being in the hole, and Max B is like kind of freedom. They could have contact visits. They got dope. They lived in a block that was housed with general population, just separate tiers. And I happened to be a general population inmate working in North Block. And I would see them on a regular basis. So that was the first time I met Benjamin Peters, the guy I would eventually stab Mambo Nostro with, and the guy I would eventually do a murder for. But I meet him there, and I noticed that my status on the yard just skyrockets, because I'm taking the dry cleaning down to the dry cleaners. I'm getting all the food from the kitchen for them. I'm getting them cartons of cigarettes. Like, everybody's doing these things for them, and they're giving it to me to take to them. And I become a camarada of the organization. They make me like a little brother. I'm not a made guy, but Benjamin Peters used to talk to me one day. He said, "Hey, you're a little brother. You're my little brother." And he called me that the first time, and I felt like this great sense of pride that a Mexican Mafia member is calling me little brother. So I leave from there after doing a bunch of favors for them, and I get to DVI, Dual Vocational Institution. They call it the Gladiator School.
And that's where the Mexican Mafia started.
That's where it started.
Back in the 50s.
Back in 1956 or 57, depending on whose version you believe. But that's where it originated, right there at DVI. They called it the Gladiator School because you go there to learn how to kill. Mm-hmm. So first day on the yard, I walk out to the yard, and a guy named Roy Boy Rivas walks up to me and says, "Hey, boxer." I said, "What's up?" And he says, "The Cardenales want you to do a favor." That means a favor, right? And to us, that means you're going to whack somebody. So, and then at this period in time, Mexican Mafia members were on the general population with us. There were 2 Mexican Mafia members there. And I says, "Yeah, sure." So he gives me a knife, big old chrome rod. You ever see a paint roller?
Yeah.
Oh, the chrome? This is all straightened out, all sharpened up to a nice big point. And it's got a T-shirt handle on the end. And I tuck it in my shirt. He says, "That guy right there on the handball court, his name's Angel from Santa Monica." He says, "Whack him." He says, "This guy's going with you." And the other guy just happens to be Francisco Martinez, puppet from 18th Street. All these people I'm interacting with, we would all become Mexican Mafia members later on. Puppet is going to be a huge figure in the organization, got RICO'd a few times. Roy Boy Rivas became a kind of like a Zodiac killer for the Mafia over Mexico. And everybody else that we functioned with there, we were just camaradas at this time. We're doing favors for the organization. So they asked me this, and I said, "Okay, let's go." So he says, "Here's Puppet. Puppet's going to grab him. You stab him." So we walked straight over there. We didn't hesitate, didn't wait. I said, "Let's go do it, man." Because I hated to have the knife and have to wait. And I just wanted to walk straight towards him and get it done. That's how I've done all my hits. Because it's that nervous period of waiting and the anticipation, the anxiety. In fact, I wouldn't smoke cigarettes because my hands shook so much when I went to go do hits. It wasn't until after that's when I had my cigarette. So me and Puppet walk to this guy, and it's first or second handball court, and Puppet just bear hugs him. And I just start nailing him. Over and over.
In the stomach?
Stomach, torso, everywhere his arms aren't. And then the handle slides up to the hilt of the knife. It was loose. So I got him maybe 10, 15 times. The guy walks, boom, falls down. They come pick him up. And it's over. I throw the knife. I take off. Got away with a hit. That was the first time I had done a hit for the organization. And even then, I didn't have aspirations like, oh, man, I'm on a fast tracker. I didn't even have that thought. I was just repping the hood. Like, my neighborhood is Artesia, and we had an older homeboy named Widow Shai Shryak, who was a Mexican Mafia member. And what we do on that yard reflects on him. So I was just repping the hood. That's all I was doing.
And then from there, you went to San Quentin.
Went to Folsom.
Right. What was Folsom like back in the 80s?
It was a big house.
Yeah.
This is back when prison was prison. Where you could do a hit, you could whack somebody, you can get away with it. and they wouldn't tell on you. Now they have this thing called 1030s, right? Confidential memorandums. People write notes or they tell the cops, and they're considered reliable confidential sources. That didn't occur back then. It was like, this was when the joint was the joint. I'm certain they had informants, but it wasn't as prolific as it is today, because they're everywhere now.
Yeah.
And I get to Folsom State Prison, and it's a time of war between the blacks and the Mexican Mafia. So I get there. The first day I get there, some guy stabbed me in the cheek. A norteño just got released from the hole, and we're going to chow hall. And he gets a fork out of the chow hall. They were giving us real cutlery, right? And he stabs me with it, and we fight. And they fire 2 rounds from the Ruger 223, the Mini 14, and they take me to the infirmary, and they take this guy to the hole. And it was nothing but a skin wound, a flesh wound, but it bled profusely. So they take me there, and they take me to the hole because I'm the victim of an assault. And it's then that I realized, because I thought I did something wrong. I said, man, they whacked me the first day I get in Folsom. What the hell did I do? And it wasn't until I went back to the hole that I saw the guy in the holding cage holding a red headband. He was calling me a scrap, right? And I realized, oh, he's a buster. He's a norteño.
Yeah.
That's why he stabbed me, because there's a rivalry between the NF and the Mexican Mafia. So he got me. He did what he was supposed to do. Kudos to him, right? He got off before anybody found out he was NF or Norte, and he stabbed me. So I go back there. I go to the shoot for 10 days. They kick me out to the main line. And who do I end up in the cell with? My homeboy, Sammy Villalba. Sammy Villalba is a shot caller for the block. And he's running the whole building for the Mexican Mafia. He wasn't a made guy yet. He would become a made guy later. And he would get eliminated later. But I'm in the cell with him, and we're talking. It's great. It's great. You know, I know the guy. He grew up with my brother. He's my older homeboy. And he says, hey, we're going to get off as soon as we can. We're going to get off on the blacks. And he pulls out this massive, massive knife. And he says, I'm going to get you one. I said, okay, let's go. Later that night, maybe 2 nights later, when we're housed together, they come and take him to the hole for whatever. They got some confidential information. And he leaves me with a knife. And I get a kite from downstairs. Hey, you ready to go? They're doing controlled feeding at the time, right? That means they let out one tier of the entire tier, mixed races at the time. So we're doing controlled showers after feeding. It says they're going to do controlled showers tonight. You got the knife. Kill your neighbor. I said, okay. And it says, this guy's going with you. This guy named Weasel from Venice. And they sent him a knife. So I'm waiting, and you can hear the lock. When they throw the bar that locks the doors from opening, it prevents the doors from opening. Old school prison tier. You ever see them when they put a key in the thing, they pull that bar? Mm-hmm. That's what they do. Boom, boom. I hear it. But then they individually come by and key the doors. They let out about 5 guys at a pop. And I'm hearing this. I'm hearing the traffic. I'm hearing the movement, and my heart's pumping. And I remember I rolled my knife up. I'm in a pair of shower shoes and boxers. So I roll my knife up in my towel, and I have this little paisa, Mexican national, little chubby guy. He's looking at me, and he's scared to death. I told him, no te preocupes, nada va a pasar. Don't worry, nothing's going to happen. And I told him, stay here.
I'm sure he believed that. Yeah.
I just told him, stay here. I told him, I'm going to do something right now. And he's like, okay. He got to the back of the cell, and he was like cowering back there. He was scared to death, and I get it, right? So the cop comes, opens my door, and says, shower. He steps aside, and I just open the towel up, step out the cell, and the guy, my target, is standing right there next to me. And I hit him, boom, right in the back of the neck, woo, all the way in. And then
feel it go.
Oh, it went all the way in. Yeah, it sunk. It went down, though. It went down towards his chest cavity, right? It was an overhand hit. And then there was another black dude right there with a broom. And he was a porter, or what they call a tier 10, or like a janitor, right? That was his job. He's looking at me, and I hit him too, but it just grazed him because it started to stampede. The whole tier started. You ever hear stampede? It sounded like you hear feet running down the tier, right? So I'm chasing after people trying to stab them because it's now just anything black I'm stabbing, right? and they start firing, boom, boom, and I could feel the percussion from the round whiz by me like. Woof.
It's a live round.
Live rounds, 223.
And this is inside.
Is inside the block, yeah.
This is not outside on the yard. This is in the building.
In the building, and then so I figured I got him. I run maybe 10, 20 more feet trying to chase this guy, but they're already shooting rounds at us. So I tossed the knife over the tier. I'm on the 3rd tier. These are 5 tiers, 5 floors. And I tossed the knife and you hear it blink, 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 blink. And then I squat down in front of a cell. And there's an AB guy named John right there. And he's right behind me. He says, hey, brother, you got down. You got down. You did that. He says, I'm going to send you something in the chute. Which means he's going to send me a packet of drugs, right? And I just look at him and say, right on, bro. Shook his hand to the thing. And the guy who's supposed to go with me comes whipping by, right? And he squats down next to me. He throws his knife. Blink, 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 blink. And I said, did you get him? He says, yeah, I got him. I got him like 10 times. I was okay, good. He's dead then. We got him. And we kind of peer over. You could see him put him in the Stokes gurney, right? He's laying down on the Stokes gurney, the primary guy. The other guy was just scratched. And they take us down to the 1st floor. It's called the 1st tier. And they start putting their hands on everybody's chest, feel the heart rate, see if it's elevated. And they snatch us up. Let's get over here. And we don't have no blood on us, nothing like that. They take us to the hall. And I get the incident packet. It's the rules violation report. And it shows a diagram of the wounds, right? It's only my wounds. There's no other wounds. The guy didn't do anything. He stayed hiding back there with the knife. And it was discovered then that this dude punked. He peed on himself. So they ended up whacking that guy. They ended up whacking him. He survived the hit. They slashed his throat with a razor. The guy, Weasel from Venice. But it was then like this dude didn't do anything, right?
Right.
He just left me out there in the breeze,
That's what I mean, though. So if you refuse to go, if you're a camarada and the carnales say you got to go hit this guy and you refuse, that's an act of cowardice. That could get you hit. Yeah,
look, if you're a camarada, you've already surrendered your autonomy to the organization and you've adopted the ideology and you've already voiced your willingness to do hits. So once you get that far, you're considered a camarada, right? And it's not a fixed title. A camarada is somebody that's viewed by the organization as a comrade of the organization, right? Yeah. Like, this is a trustworthy guy. We know who he is. We know his past. We know everything about him.
You're an associate.
You're an associate of the organization.
Okay, but the black guy survived.
Yeah.
Did you actually successfully ever kill somebody in prison?
No. Wow. Never once. I did a lot of stabbings in prison. Nobody ever died. So there have been other stuff that we participated in where people have died that, to vote through tacit agreement, through a mutual conspiracy in the organization where people ended up dead.
Right.
I just wasn't the guy that stabbed them.
That pulled the trigger.
Yeah. So you got to look at it like this, right? You got 10, 15 years in the mob, whatever it is. There are so many conspiracies that take place. So like every day is crime.
Yeah.
Every day is crime. That's what you do. I'm going to make money this way. I'm going to start that guy, go collect my money there. Let's go shoot some dope. Hey, that guy's got to go. That's all it is. That's all it is every day. Every day.
Do you think if you had been convicted for killing somebody in prison, even though you ended up cooperating later, do you think you still would be doing a life sentence? Do you think they ever would have let you out?
I think that, the same circumstances. I think if Mon or Henry would have died, or any of those other people would have died, I might not have been let out of prison. Mm-hmm. That may have been a significant factor that even after incarceration, I had continued to murder people.
Yeah.
But the parole process is really difficult. A lot of people think that you just do your time, you go to the board, you get granted. It's not that way. It's not that way. And cooperation doesn't get you out.
Well, we're going to get to that because people are obviously watching this are like, how the are you free? Mm-hmm. So your first stretch, this is the time that you're at DVI, then you go to Folsom, then you go to San Quentin. Did you get made during that first incarceration stretch?
Yes. After that hit of the black guy in the tier where everybody took off in the stampede, I get made. I go to the shoe And I meet Widow Shy, Shryak, Black Dan Barella, who I got really close with. Joe Morgan's there, Nico Velasquez is there. All the Titans are there. All the big mobsters.
Yeah.
The names you heard about for all these years, they're there. And I go to the yard with these guys. I'm at Shoot 2. And Widow Shy says, yeah, you're material. And I said, what's that? He said, yeah, we got our eye on you. And then they start pulling me to their cells, right? I go to Black Dan Barella. He's my barber. He cuts everybody's hair. And at this point in time, they would allow you to get one guy out of one cell and put him in another cell so you can get a haircut. Mm. It was that loose back then. So Black Dan would give me haircuts and just educate me. Like, look, they're going to put you up. They got to take a vote first, but don't change who you are. We're making you for who you are today. So I knew then, like, wow, they're sponsoring me into the mob. He said, we can't do it because we're sponsoring Negro right now. So Black Dan and Widow Shy are sponsoring Negro Villalba. And they said, well, we're going to have Sloppy Corwin Elmore, who's a beast of a man. Big, filthy, stinky man. He was a May Cardenal. Corwin Elmore from Clanton 14. He was a Native American, he was a Mohawk Indian.
Wow.
And so he's going to sponsor you. So he sponsors me and the vote passes. And one day I'm in the cell and Chilito Grajeda, Sanon Grajeda calls me. And we had these little handheld mirrors. They had permitted them at the time. Probably about 3x3, those square plexiglass things. He says, hey, stick your mirror out. So I do. I stick my mirror out. And he sticks his mirror out. And he says, do you see this? He points to his hand. I says, yeah. He says, that's you now, which meant Black Hand.
Yeah.
And I knew right then. I was like, whoa. That night, I got maybe a dozen kites from camaradas congratulating me. We had wine. We drank wine. Pruno, what they call Pruno? Mm-hmm. Nobody calls it Pruno. We call it wine. Yeah. Pisto, we call it Pisto, yeah. Only prison guards and civilians call it Pruno. Mm-hmm. But that's what we had that night. We drank wine, we partied, and I was a main guy.
So it's not as official, the ceremony, as like the Italian Mafia. But it does have to be voted on unanimously by, who is it, the top ranking guys or everybody?
Everybody has to vote yes.
So 80 people, 100 people have to vote yes?
No, only the people at their respective institution. That's how it was before.
I see. Okay.
Now it's everybody has to vote. Both state and feds. Everybody has to participate in the vote. And it has to be unanimous, right?
So that's like hundreds of people have to vote for you. Yeah.
That's why so a lot of people don't get in, right? Maybe once every few years, a couple of guys will get in. And the rate of attrition is much greater, right?
Attrition meaning people defecting.
Defecting or getting whacked out. Like, I mean, I don't know if you follow the news or you watch CDC website. A lot of Mexican Mafia members have been killed lately.
What's going on with that?
Look, they didn't violate the rules. They didn't violate the rules. They killed Popeye. They killed Tonito. They killed Deadeye Ed. They killed Popeye, Tonito. They just killed Mosca from San Fernando Valley. And the guys weren't rats, cowards, or informants. Those are the big rules, right? Big rules. They weren't any of those things. Really, it's greed.
It's just infighting.
Infighting and politicking. We call it politicking.
Politicking, yeah.
That's all it is. That's all it is. I mean, certainly some members are more liked than others. Mm-hmm. Like Popeye was always involved in controversy. Danny Roman, he was a good friend of mine. Always involved in controversy over territory and defending his daughter, who was secretary for his neighborhood, who ran part of South Los Angeles and ruled it with an iron fist. Defended a lot of brothers. But he continued that in prison as well. They started fighting over prison yards, and he was obdurate, hard-headed. And I think that was part of the reason why they clipped him. But I think the majority of the motivation is territory. Because it's not just the program, like I told you, which is the Mexican Mafia sells you drugs and you distribute those drugs, plus you pay a tax.
You pay a portion of the
proceeds.
So
they sell you the dope, they get paid. And then for the privilege of selling the dope, you're going to pay them an additional fee. So they're the well and the pump. Kind of like Exxon,
right.
Big oil, big petroleum.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid all the way through it. It's not just that. And it's not just the yards, which they're making huge money on. They're having drone drops, and they have routes with corrupt COs and corrupt prison workers. A lot of that stuff is not coming to the visit. It's impossible to get that to the visit. So it has to come in some way. They have routes coming in, corrupt people within the CDC that are working with them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money there. There's a lot of money in the program, but they also have what this called casitas. Casitas are illegal gambling houses in the territories that these gang members control. Virtually no overhead, where they human trafficking, prostitution, weapons, drugs, gambling, and the money is astronomical. Like, if you think they were doing good before, these guys are balling out of control now.
I
Because
think they're making more money now,
More-
even with all the snitches and the technology and the feds and shit.
I think that the Mexican Mafia sees snitches, technology, and all as part of doing business. Danny Boy Pina was caught on wire saying, it's not that we're careless when we talk. So we have to talk in order to conduct business. So it's a consequence of doing business. I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, but this is essentially what he said. Like, hey, we know you're listening, but we're mobsters and we got to do business. And that's really the way it is.
Yeah.
So these guys are serving multiple life sentences. They know they're never going to get up.
It's kind of an unbeatable attitude.
It is. I mean, what are you going to do to a guy that's serving life? Say you're going to give him a life sentence? You're going to put him in the hole for 6 months? He's still going to do business.
Yeah.
In fact, the shoe has been abolished thanks to Gavin Newsom. There's no more shoe. You can only go for a finite period of time. Like before, you were given an indeterminate shoe term.
Right. Which is what you were serving at
Yeah.
Pelican Bay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So now you can only go for a year.
6 months. You can kill somebody and get out in 9 months. Then come right back out, have conjugal visits, and have your drones flying and drop all your cell phones off and all that.
Okay. Talk about that is the most mind-boggling thing is the way that bosses, mafioso, are in the shoe and still communicating. Talk about when you were in the shoe in Pelican Bay, how you would conduct business 1,000 miles south on the streets of Los Angeles and collect money from all of these different drug dealing crews.
I would have people come visit me, and I would use what is known as informal gang code, right? Informal gang code is really just a manner of communication in which two individuals are predisposed to understand underlying content, right? So if I talk to you about, hey, Johnny, remember that baseball game yesterday? Yeah, and Jimmy was pitching? He's freaking terrible, dude. He needs to be taken off the mound. Yeah, I freaking agree. He's horrible for the team. To the layperson, it sounds like we're talking about a baseball game where Jimmy was pitching horribly. To me and you know we're talking about clipping Jimmy, because we didn't attend no baseball game yesterday.
Right.
And Jimmy is actually Joseph or Joker or whoever, right? But you utilize this form of communication. In fact, I was never caught on wire or recording utilizing this kind of communication, because on my channel, that's what I do. I run nothing but intercepted communications. And today's mobster, it's overt. There's very little interpretation needed. But back in that day, we utilized our visitors to send out our messages. That and plain old letters.
Right.
We would write letters, hundreds of them.
So you would have people come all the way up to Crescent City, California, the very northwest tip of California. Who can you not describing who they are, but were these females? Were these family members? Were these? Am I in the ballpark? Or who was it?
You hit the nail directly on the head.
Okay.
It's females, family members, wives, girlfriends.
And are you talking through glass?
You're talking through a phone.
Yeah, you're talking through the phone.
Yes.
And so obviously they're listening to you. They know the status you have. So
No. At that time, no. They had no idea what was happening under their roof.
Oh, okay.
They had zero concept of what was going on. There was a few gang investigators that had some idea what the mafia was, but they didn't know about the street operations or anything until I dropped out.
Oh, wow.
Once I defected, then they knew this. Oh my God, this is it. They started putting up pinhole cameras, wired the visiting room. That's when all the intel started pouring in.
So it was your fault.
My fault. My fault.
Okay, so tell us how you would do that. How you have couriers come up to San Quentin, visit you, and then they would go back down to LA and relay to your basically general manager. Explain how you were able to, have this huge enterprise from the shoe in Pelican Bay.
So, I mean, there are guys that are Mexican Mafia members that had nothing. And they couldn't have anything because they didn't have the foresight. They had narrow perspective, and all they cared about was getting money on their books for commissary or shooting dope. But you had progressive thinkers that had highly reticulated crews that are really organized, right? I had a really good crew. I had one individual on the streets who ran everything, and everything else was his responsibility.
Who was he?
He ran everything for me. He was like my brother. My mother had hooked up with his father. They weren't married, but that was his son. My mother's boyfriend had a son, and Huck was that person.
Oh, he's like literally your
stepbrother. Half brother, yeah, stepbrother.
Okay. Got it.
And I trusted him. I knew him as a kid. In fact, when I had paroled in 1988, I met him, and he was gung-ho youngster.
Yeah.
You know, he was a killer, and that's what I liked about him. He was gung-ho. So when I started in Pelican Bay, when we started that program, I knew I could establish my crew because all the brothers on the streets were my friends. I had no adversaries out there. That was my support system. So I started my crew, and I told Huck, do it. Collect, deal, do everything. We're blanketed, right? And I would do that through my visitor. My visitor would come up on a Saturday, get my messages, go out to the hotel, call them, relay the messages, and get their responses, and come back Sunday and tell me. Then I give them more messages. They go back, and the next week or 2 weeks later, they come back. A really antiquated system, but it was very effective.
Okay, and how did Huck collect? How was he able to use your name to wield all this power over?
Just that, franchise. The concept of franchise. Look at, because all of these contemporary business practices are implemented into this objective, right? There's franchising, licensing your name. Anybody who wants to deal dope in my territories can use my name and fall beneath the umbrage of my bona fides, right? Number two, there's profit sharing. Everybody that collects for me gets part of it. And then there's that status mobility system. They go from gang member to Southsider to Sureño to Camarada to Carnal. They have that aspiration. Literally, none of them will ever make it to Carnal, but it's there. The hope and the dream is there. And for a lot of them, they drive towards that because they're marginalized. It's a marginalized population.
Yeah.
Guys who've been kicked out of their homes, use drugs, have lack of education. It's marginalized, right? It's a gang subculture. And finally, they're participating in something bigger than them, la causa, the cause, right? And they now have status within their socio-political arena. Mm-hmm. Now they're part of Boxer's crew. And that means more than any gang membership. You were on a Mexican Mafia member's crew, nobody can touch you.
Right. So how many people was Huck collecting from?
I don't even know. I mean, Huck had 2 legitimate businesses made with our money that were, I had tipped like 10%. And one of the popular nightclubs, 2 Baby Does up here off some place in Los Angeles. It's called, I don't even know the city, but it was off of one of the freeways in Los Angeles.
Is it a Mexican neighborhood?
Yeah, it's a Mexican neighborhood. Yeah,
okay, so but it was South LA, Southeast side, or something like that.
No, I think it's it's by the Sheriff's Academy.
I don't know. Koreatown?
No, I don't know. I didn't know I owned it.
Right.
So there were multiple locations. He had legitimate businesses that I owned a percentage of, but the cash money was really minuscule for me. I think 50 to 80 a year at the beginning. 1992, 93, 94,
yeah,
that I would receive in payments just through the prison.
$80,000 sitting in the shoe. That's, you might as well have a gazillion dollars. There's nothing to spend your money on.
I was invested in treasury bonds, bank accounts, CDs. I was doing all this from the prison. They'd allow me, which is, it was crazy. They would allow me to invest money in a banking account and then purchase bonds. And then they'd allow me to write. They were called state warrants. I'd fill out a form, and every time my inmate account got upwards to $10,000, I delete it. Right, I release the money,
right,
and the state treasurer would issue the recipient a legitimate check. So I was sending out at $9,500 a pop.
Yeah,
boom, 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 and it was, for me, I was like, this is good business. For me, a prisoner 20, 30 years ago, making $80,000, $50,000 a year, that That was pretty good. But that was the inception of it. Now they went on to seize funds from, I think, 10 or 15 individuals. One Mexican Mafia member had $90,000 in an account. Another one had $30,000 in his account. And they couldn't explain where they got it from. They eventually, in one instance, made the CDC return the money to Danny Roman. It was a $30,000 deposit that they had seized, right? Mm-hmm. But there was real money flowing in and out of Pelican Bay State Prison. Right. And at the time, law enforcement and the prison authorities didn't even understand what was happening. So like my debriefing coupled with Angel Valencia's debriefing and Chino Delgadillo's debriefing, because we all defected within the same week. I dropped out, then I made videos for them and I told them, come on over. You're going to get hit. And they actually came over. So we all three debriefed together, and collectively that information just rocked the CDC.
So you were operating like this for almost 15 years and they really had no idea?
None.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. And in Pelican Bay, you had a ton of drugs.
I had
you had heroin whenever you wanted.
I overdosed 3 times on heroin. I had more dope than I ever had in my life in Pelican Bay State Prison. We had these things called annual packages where your family could collect like cereal and candy bars and soap and put it in a box and mail it to you. Well, Huck would load up my packages with drugs, and we would get like balls of heroin. And but we would do this. We would make about the size of a little jawbreaker in colored balloons and throw them in trick cereal, handfuls of them.
Right.
But each one's a gram, so you throw 30 or 40 in there. That's 40 grams of heroin in a box of cereal. You pour it out on the floor, you can't even see them because it was that much of an optical illusion. Wow. They just blended right in. And there were a variety of other ways, like legal mail and stuff like that we'd get dope in.
So you could get 40 grams of heroin into Pelican Bay?
No problem. Wow. In fact, one guy, Ricky Cruz, who's now deceased, he died from COVID, he got in 1.5 pounds of meth inside the Country Time Kool-Aid. He mixed it in with the Kool-Aid, and he had 1.5 pounds of meth and 1 pop. And like, what are you going to do with 1.5 pounds of meth in the shoe?
Yeah.
Tweak balls all night.
Yeah.
And that's what they were doing.
Yeah, and you were a pretty bad heroin addict.
Oh, I was a pig. I was a pig. I would shoot dope till I went blind.
Yeah.
Or until I couldn't move anymore. Until it was gone.
Yeah, and those rigs, you describe them, they're not like, it's not a clean way to shoot heroin. Like your entire arm starts squirting blood and...
It was ridiculous. We take these, they give you these pen fillers. They give you a pen filler at supply day, right? And it's what you write letters with. It's just a flimsy little pen filler, but the tip is brass. So we knock out the ball of the writing instrument and pull the tip out and then sharpen it to a point. And we would jab that pen filler into our arms, into our veins. I have a massive scar on my arm because of that. But that's the way people shot dope in the shoe.
Why did in the 80s, the height of the crack boom, why do you think that Chicanos, in California, why was heroin like the drug of choice?
I think the euphoric feeling, it's like the warmth, right? It's a high of highs. That opiate high is like no other. And I think it's like self-medicating, right? For people who have internal pain, psychological pain, childhood trauma, whatever it is, abandonment, physical abuse, whatever, addiction in the family, they're suffering.
Yeah.
And without therapy, I think people go to that, they gravitate towards self-medicating. For me, that's, it's escapism. I was escaping it. And when I was high, I wasn't in prison. I was just high. I didn't care about anything.
Yeah, heroin seems better for numbing your way out of prison than like smoking crack, smoking meth or something.
Yeah,
now you're like, I have a ton of energy and nowhere to go.
And paranoia sets in.
I'm in a box, right? And you're paranoid. Did you have? No, there's a couple of famous, well-known carnales that really did operate on both sides of the border. Like became real drug kingpins. You weren't a real drug kingpin, but you did. Obviously, taxed a lot of drug dealers. How deep into the drug game did your operation get? Like, did you have connections with Tijuana?
Yes.
Directly?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, there was a guy named Bat Marquez. Bat Marquez is a friend of mine. He was partners with Popeye Barron, the same Popeye Barron that was in Mexico working with the Adriano Felix organization.
Real quick, if you watch Narcos Mexico in the season when the big season about the Adriano Felix when they go to war, they feature that guy.
Popeye Barron.
Popeye Barron.
David Barron, yeah.
He was the guy, he's from Logan Heights, San Diego. He was the guy that basically got contracted with the Adriano Felix to go to war, and he became really, really deep into that organization, like shootouts with, murdered Mexican cops for them, saved the brothers' lives from when Chapo tried to whack them in Puerto Vallarta. So if anybody wants to research that, that's who you're talking about.
Yeah, that's
David Barron.
The Christine's nightclub incident.
Right.
When he picked up an AK and he killed a couple of guys from the Chapo Guzman cartel. That's the same people I'm talking about. So Popeye, I never met him. I never knew him. He was a made guy. He got killed on some friendly fire when they were attempting to eliminate Blanco Ornelas, a journalist out there in Mexico. Yeah. But Bat survived, and Bat took over that relationship. Now, a lot of people claim to have cartel ties and the ties with Mexico and the Mexican Mafia. They didn't exist before Bat and Popeye. It just didn't exist to that level. This is the real formation of the relationship with the Mexican Mafia and the cartels. The real relationship. Now, independent cardenales maybe had a connect out there, but that type of relationship where they're taking gang members from Southern California and taking them to Mexico to do hits for the cartels, and the cartels thrusting hundreds of pounds in their lap and paying them astronomical amounts of money didn't exist before those guys. I don't care who says it. Right. That's the reality of it.
And you were tied in with those guys, with Bat
and his crew.
Yeah.
So Bat actually, I was on a bus with him in 1995. They subpoenaed like 15 Mexican Mafia members down to a RICO trial, the first U.S. RICO case against the Mexican Mafia, United States of America versus Alex Aguirre et al. So they pull us down for witnesses. None of us testify, but we're having meetings on the bus, right? And Bat sits next to me and says, "Hey, man, I want to bring your people down to Mexico. Maybe we can do some business. You can do hits over there. If you need somebody hit over here, we can do it. Plus, they got a lot of product." So, yeah, we'll check it out. And sure enough, I send people down there to Mexico. They go down there, picks them up in an armored vehicle, takes them to his location, which is a secure location. They have counter surveillance, all kinds of stuff. And I opted out. How could I be in control of hundreds of pounds of product when I'm in Pelican Bay State Prison? And this is cartels. The cartels, they kill your cat, your dog, whatever for their money. And I could not be responsible for that.
What was it, meth?
Meth and weed.
Okay.
So he wants to just thrust all this to be distributed by my crew. And I couldn't take that risk. I didn't have the ability to do it. Because I just knew I had Huck and I didn't know what he could handle. Come to find out, he could have handled it. But yeah, that's just a risk I didn't want to take because it exposes your family.
Okay, so you didn't really end up being a drug trafficker.
No, I was more a manager.
Okay, so
more a manager.
You basically just oversaw crews that were selling dope.
Yep, that was my thing.
And why not? Yeah, why not sell to them the way they do now? Why not be both ends of the water and the well?
That concept developed later.
Right.
The organization is evolving. You're seeing the evolution of a prison gang into a real criminal syndicate. Yeah. So, like I said, I was in the ground floor. I was in the ground floor when this happened.
Yeah, because it really started off just as a prison gang, right? The 50s, 60s, 70s really just was a prison gang. The late 80s, as you're really becoming, an infamous guy in the organization, that's when they have this symbiosis with the street and taxing drug dealers. And then the next step is, oh no, we're fully interconnected with Mexican cartels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're seeing that now. You're seeing that interconnection with cartels. But understand this, the cartels see Mexican Mafia in Mexico as plásticos. That's plastic. False, artificial. They call them pelones, bald heads. Pochos, they call them pochos. Yeah. It's all derogatory because the cartels can't understand why a guy would want to go to prison and serve life. They don't understand that. They don't respect it. And they don't respect drug use. Right. So although the Mexican Mafia works with them, has a symbiotic relationship with them in Mexico, the cartels run it there. In fact, multiple Mexican Mafia members have been eliminated, brutally killed by cartels in Mexico. And what does the Mexican Mafia do? He had to go.
Yeah.
They accept it because they can't battle with that type of power. It's a $22 billion a year industry.
Right.
How can the Mexican Mafia wage war against an institution that controls a country?
Yeah.
They can't.
But at the same time, they need you guys because they need their product distributed in the United States.
That, on some level,
Okay.
like gang territories. What do gang territories? They sell drugs, and who buys drugs? The population in those gang territories. It's smart business for the cartels. It's a win-win for them because it's a pittance to the cartels to say, okay, here's 100 pounds of meth, and here's a couple $100K. When they're making billions, so for the cartels, they benefit through market exclusivity and protection in the prisons. I have pictures with cartel leaders from various countries with Mexican Mafia members in ADX in Florence. Like there's a real relationship that exists there, and they're exploiting it to the best of their ability.
How so?
They have these individuals give them money. They give them dope.
Right.
They gain influence within the organization. I mean, if I had a cartel guy by me, next to me in my same unit, it would be that. Let me deal dope for you. Let me serve you. Let me be of service to you.
Because you can kill those guys.
Oh,
Like they're just, Mexicans in an American prison at that point. So they're kind of like grateful to do that.
and have the influence of the organization behind them.
Right.
But on the streets, they kill Mexican Mafia members. It's a crazy relationship.
Now, how are you so articulate? Were you always educating yourself while you were down?
I was. I'm autodidact. I taught myself, right?
Yeah.
That's just, I took college courses. And the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know. I wanted to learn more. Like, that's what thermonuclear physics are. That's what the theory of relativity is. Or,
right.
You'd hear these things and you're like, what are they talking about? Mm-hmm. And the more I learned about it, the more I wanted to know.
Yeah.
That just drove my hunger for education.
Do you think your articulate, your verbal IQ and how articulate you are, your intelligence, was that one of the reasons that you got plucked to be a made guy? Like, do they look at the way the Italian mafia, traditionally they're like, okay, he's violent, but he's a good earner, or he's whatever, right? Like, you generally have to have a basket of qualities to actually become, an NBA player. Like, why do you think, what did you bring to the table that made yourself different from all these camaradas that'll never be made guys?
Nothing. Unfortunately, in the Mexican Mafia, the status mobility system is violence. You get recognized for your willingness to commit murders.
You said in the book, you described it as terrorism.
Terrorism. It's urban street terrorism. That's really what it is.
But unlike terrorism, which we think of as like Middle Eastern, setting bombs off and killing civilians, that's driven by like a political message or political ideology usually. It all comes back to earning. You use terrorism and violence to get people to do what you want to do so you can make money.
Murder is a very simple motivator. Everybody understands murder. And I don't care what ethnicity you are, you speak violence. When somebody commits an act of violence, you know exactly what that is. And that translates through all socioeconomic groups, particularly our target demographic, which is the Hispanic gang subculture. They know, if I don't do this, I'm going to get a hole in my hat, or I'm going to get stabbed 50 or 60 times. So I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it is. The Mexican Mafia has perfected the mystique of the organization and the prison lore that exists before the nouveau and contemporary organization. That people had their hearts cut out or people were stabbed and thrown off of tiers. The Mexican Mafia has taken that and expounded on it. Still commits the same level of violence. The egregious overkill that when it stabs somebody still does that. Still kills people on the streets, but to a lesser note because they've already capitalized on it. They've taken that and they've extracted from it the honey,
right?
Which is the payday.
So you guys don't have to be out there killing like it's the 1980s anymore because you've done that. You've established you're so embedded into street culture that you can basically just call shots and kill when you need to kill.
Yes, that's how the organization works. In my day, violence was the ultimate last resort. You didn't want to kill camarada, and very few of them were killed. And you didn't want to whack a sureño, and it took something monumental to kill a carnal, because that was the ultimate last resort. Violence was the last resort.
And to kill a carnal, to kill a fellow MA brother, you had to get it approved by everybody, I believe, right? Or everybody on your prison yard?
Sometimes. Those rules are gray.
Yeah.
They got an old saying in the mob, dead men have no support. Once you whack them, boom, boom, it's done. There might be some hairs raised and people might question, but he's gone. Are you going to risk your life and your career for a dead brother? No. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. So oftentimes these hits are done in groups of 5 or 6 guys that make an agreement to kill somebody, and they exclude other members from the vote. And if another member votes no on the killing, they'll hold another vote excluding that guy, take the vote, it's unanimous, boom, and they do it. So really, elimination is a tool. It's power grab. So everything you see is a display of and reclamation of power for members, doing a hit, voting yes on that. It's because they're going to share in the profits or whatever their motivation is, right? See, like me, I didn't know that. I was completely ignorant of political survival within an organization that was cannibalistic. I foolishly went up and did just what I was told. Little did I know I was making all the errors politically and alienating so many people who were monolithic in their reputations and the history of the organization.
You really believed in it.
I believed in it. I was going to go to death row for it. I killed for it. I got 3 life sentences for it. And I was willing to die for it until I wasn't.
Why did you want to go to death row?
I wanted my name to be known. I wanted my name to be known. Boxer from the Mexican Mafia. You're going to remember me. You're going to remember me.
Okay. And that almost happened. Tell us about the murders that got you sent to, LA County Jail for 2-3 years, that got you sent to Pelican Bay, got you the life sentences. We haven't even got to that yet. What'd you do to go to prison?
The first murder, I ordered a woman killed. Her name was Cynthia Galvadon. Cynthia Figueroa Galvadon, part of the Figueroa family. But she was married to the brother of a Mexican Mafia member, and she was dealing dope for us. And she was stealing. She was stealing and pinching the dope. In retrospect, it was minuscule. Unlike the family members of the victim that say it was only over $10, it wasn't over $10. It was the principle. The principle that we embraced her and allowed her to work for us, and she stole from me repeatedly. That was the principle that was violated. And people had been stealing from us, from my crew. I was running area in Hawaiian Gardens on Camulos in Oregon. I had a dope house there. I think they call them trap houses now. But I had a dope house there, and I ran all that dope. Plus, I was running around pressuring all the drug dealers for dope. I was robbing them and extorting them because the Mexican Mafia was dormant at this time.
This was when you're on parole in the late 80s, after you got out of your first stretch, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and you're a gangster. Like you got robbery crews that are just kicking in dudes' doors, home invasions, tying them up, torturing them, taking their dope, and then saying, you got to work for me now.
Yep. Or don't work at all. Because I went out there and I went out with on the premise that yo soy carnal. Yo soy de la mafia, right? I'm a brother and I'm from the mob. You're going to pay me. And guys are like, that's a prison thing, isn't it? What's the end, man? And I'm like, well, I'm going to show you what it's about. And Mundo had a concept that they said called the spreading the MA gospel, or the whacking people all in the 70s and 80s. Well, we were doing the same thing. And we picked up on what he was doing and we started doing it. But at that time, I got a lot of political flack for it. Look at René. He's lost his mind out there. He's kicking indoors. He went like a wild man. No, that was a principle. I was pushing the principle of you're going to respect the organization. It is not just in prison. This is a street thing now. So we did that. So we get this girl to come deal dope for us. She starts clipping us. And I tell Mo, I says, take her, go dump her. Little Mo Ruiz. Jaco Padilla gives him the gun. It's a 357 Python. And he takes her to a area in Boyle Heights and shoots her once in the head and once in the back. A couple days later, I think it was New Year's Eve. That was on the day before Christmas Eve, Cynthia Galvedon. And then on the day before Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, David Gallegos. His name is Loco or Pelon from Maravilla. He's been on the hit list. I have received a message from Mexican Mafia member Benny Peters, the guy who stabbed the guy in the attorney room a year earlier while I was out on parole, that said, hey, this guy's got to go. He's a coward. And we had a meeting there. We had 3 Mexican Mafia members. He calls from the county jail. I accept the hit. And another member who was there present with me is supposed to go with me on the hit. So every time I approach this guy about, hey, let's go do this. Oh, I got baseball practice, or I got this. You got 1,000 different reasons why I couldn't do it. His kid's this, his kid's that. So I go do a parole violation. I get back out, and I'm running this drug house on Oregon and Camulos. It's actually on Camulos and Oregon. Yeah, Camulos and Oregon. In White Fence, Gangtorian, Ball Heights. I'm in this house, and we have guns everywhere. We're selling dope. I have 3 crew members with me. And who shows up to the door? David Gallegos, the guy I agreed to kill 6 months earlier. And he's attempting to strong-arm my drug dealers for dope. So one of the guys that mans the door comes and says, hey, there's a guy out here saying he's a Mexican Mafia member who wants dope. I said, tell him to come inside. And when I see him, I was, oh, shoot. You're not going home, buddy. And I chuckle in jest because I'm living in the moment. But I want to say immediately, I don't take this lightly. I understand that taking a human life is a huge burden to carry. Mm-hmm. It impacted the family so terribly. But I'm in the moment telling the story. So I just want to translate that to your viewer. That's not who I am today. Right. That's who I was then. Mm-hmm. And what you're seeing is who I was then, right now. So in my mind, I'm saying, you're not going home, buddy. And I tell my friend, hey, go fix him up a shot, because he's asking for dope. And I told him, hey, you want to get high? Is that what it is? He says, yeah. So I told him, this is my dope house, and welcome. And we start talking politics, just like normal. I sit down next to him, and I tell Jaco Padilla, go cook him up a lethal dose. And contrary to popular belief, a hot shot is not the battery acid or poison or cyanide. That's not a hot shot. Hot shot is an intentional overdose. Yeah. There's plausible deniability in it. Right. Here's a heroin addict, did overdoses. He's found in an alley. Oh, well. That's what we were initially planning with this guy. So Jaco goes to the bathroom. He cooks up like 10 bindles of heroin and a bunch of coke, and we hit him with it. Boom. And the guy just goes out. Boop. So we put him in the bedroom, and I could hear he's in respiratory arrest. I could hear it. The death rattle. And I said, you know what? Let's make sure. I said, go cook him up some more. So we go cook up another 10 balloons of heroin. And I got him. I got his arm, and I'm trying to inject him. And what does he do? He wakes up, and he looks at me and says, you trying to kill me? I said, no, bro, I'm going to try to give you some coke to bring you out of it. You OD'd. And I hit him again, and he goes right back out. Then we know he's gone, right? You hear a little death rattle. We carry him out in a sarape, like a Mexican blanket. We carry him out to the car in a sarape. And we had a black car called a Night Rider. We took it from a drug dealer. We extorted him for it. So we put him in the back seat, and we take him to a place by the Estrada projects off of Olympic Boulevard in Los Angeles, called Spence Street. It's like a perfect, idyllic place to commit a murder. It's like what you see out of a mob scene. Dark, no lights, alley. And we dump him onto the ground. I shoot him 5 times in the head, just to be sure. I said, what if this guy wakes up again? I said, let's just take him here. I want to do this and make sure it's done, because I can't bail at this. You can't. I mean, that's, you try to whack a guy and you miss, and he's out there, and it's your political career. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure it was done. So I shot him 5 times in the head with a .357, and his body was discovered the next morning.
Okay. And a while later, the cops put the case together, whoop-de-whoop. You get arrested, and now you're facing the death penalty for 2 murders. in LA County Jail. What year did you go in?
1990. January 10th, 1990.
And you were in there for how long?
In the county jail?
Yeah.
About 2.5 years.
Okay. And this is where it gets wild. A lot of people might know this. I had no idea that, especially back then, LA County Jail operated like a mini penitentiary.
LA County Jail is probably one of the most violent places you could ever do time at. If you could survive there, you could survive anywhere. I used to carry around a knife and a key everywhere I went. In fact, I had a 22 homemade zip gun in there. I had the stuff smuggled in. It was wild there. You could have anything you wanted, and the violence was so off the hook because it's a political hotbed. Everybody comes there. All politics go there. It's like a hub for the Mexican Mafia. There's a lot of money to be made there as well.
Right. Like, it's so crazy because I've been to county jail, and not here, but in Oregon, and I've seen how controlled and locked down and isolating it is. Like, to think that you guys could get in all of that stuff like it was a real prison, like it was a yard, is fascinating. Like, you guys there was like real drug dealing, like drug kingpinning going on in there.
There was. I used to sell drugs for Aryan Brotherhood member John Stinson and Cuarta Grajeda. But I wasn't a drug dealer. I was a drug user. That was like, I just wanted to get high.
Yeah.
You know, I never really thought about making money off of dope. I had gobs of dope, but I'd shoot it all.
Right.
So, like, I own the drug dealers, and the product is free to me.
Right.
So that's like, I was never a prosperous drug dealer. Everybody said René was a big. I was not.
You were controlling drug dealers in LA County Jail too.
And as a matter of fact, when they brought whales in, we would extort them. I got one for a Mercedes-Benz. I got another one for pounds of dope.
Wait. So whales, like big kingpins, would come in.
Whales, yeah.
Without any protection.
Yeah, they call gamblers. They're dropping $100,000 at a pop, $1 million at a pop. They're called whales.
Yeah.
We call them whales when they come. They're large scale. In fact, 2 Mexican Mafia members had this thing called Operation Wildebeest. Like wildebeest. They go on this massive migration thing. And I told them, why'd you call it Operation Wildebeest? He said, the wildebeest, they go on these massive migrations, right? And there's always the dumb one, the big one that's slow. And he's going to the river and the crocodiles get him. Well, we wait for that big one, that dumb one, and we get him. And they would actually take these kingpins hostage in the cell and tell them, get on the phone, sign over your boat, sign over the Mercedes, sign over your house, and they were successful at it. That was Babo Braulio Castellanos and Ruben Tupi Hernandez. Yeah. So I did the same thing over there in the county jail. I'd see one and I'd say, hey, bro, come here. Come here. And I'd tell him, come on, sign it over. But I soft-handed them.
Yeah.
I never threatened them. You know, like, hey, man, I paid $80,000 for that car. Come on, man. My old lady needs a car. Come on. And they would do it.
Of course, because big time drug dealers aren't tough guys.
They're not.
You could have got me. I would have been a whale. You would have got me, and I'd be like, whatever you want.
There you go, bro. That's how they operated.
And these weren't cartel guys. These were just big drug dealers, right?
Neighborhood drug dealers that made it big. Gang members or fringe gang members that made it big. Lived in the neighborhood. So they got this level of people, they're residents. If you live in a gang territory and you're not a gang member, you're a resident. Or you're a gang member. Or you're a Sureño or a Southsider, right?
Right.
So these guys are mainly residents. A lot of them paisas, but you get them and you sting them. And they take it willingly. And it was kind of lucrative. For me, I was like, oh, wow, that worked.
So you got a guy to just sign over his Mercedes?
Yeah.
On the spot?
On the spot.
Yeah.
Had him deliver it, took it, signed it over.
Yeah. The other fascinating thing about your stretch in LA County was, the way that you were calling witnesses down, meetings, the way you would hold meetings by calling in brothers from prisons all over the state.
There was a line in American Media. It says, the state's so lame it pays for the game.
Yeah.
And that is it in truth right there. We just subpoena these guys. Yeah. This is back in the 90s where cell phones didn't really exist. And if they did, there were those big brick phones. Mm-hmm. Now everybody has cell phones. Every Mexican Mafia member on every prison has got a cell phone, except for the feds. They're not as prolific in the feds, which is the Federal Bureau of Prisons. But in the state of California, every Mexican Mafia member has a cell phone and a backup cell phone.
Right.
That's how prolific they are.
Wow.
But back then, it was like Stone Age. This was Stone Age. We get out once every couple of days to use the phone. and we get visits, and we conduct our business that way on the phones. And they didn't have the ITMS system implemented then. ITMS is the inmate telephone monitoring system, which automatically records everybody and use a PIN number from your booking number, and your calls are recorded.
So you were running your business like without a hitch in county?
Without a hitch. Everything was going fine. We're introducing drugs and contraband, and it was really just a big party.
Were you ordering hits, or were you doing hits, or besides that, the stabbing in the attorney's room?
Yeah, I remember that we ordered a couple of hits in there. There was quite a few. Richard Chamberlain was eliminated by Sureños for John Stinson. He was eliminated there in the county jail. We found out later on because Cuate Grajeda asked me, hey, make sure this gets done. It gets done. And then years later, we find out that the AB is coming to him to get people eliminated for them. But he's using us and the Sureños thinking that it's his business, right? One of the strikes against him. But there were quite a few eliminations in the county jail. One guy got stabbed up about 100 times and stuck under his bunk. There was the individual I stabbed in DVI, my first hit, Angel from Santa Monica. He ends up in the gang module, 41 or 4700. Years later, unbeknownst to me, he ends up in a cell with gang members, and they butcher him and murder him. Same guy, for that reason, because I hit him years before.
No way.
And I didn't even know this till recently. One of my viewers informed me, hey, this is this guy, and I don't think you know these facts. And I really, truly didn't.
Wow.
That's how many murders are occurring and hits are occurring within the organization at any given location. It's that kind of violence that it just becomes mundane and like, oh, well, another one bites the dust.
Yeah. I think it's wild. The recent indictment in April here in LA of all these Mexican Mafia guys, but there was only like 2 murders on the indictment. Everything else was for racketeering, drug trafficking, kidnapping. Like 2 murders. If you go read an indictment from the early 90s, there's like 15 murders on one indictment, you know? Like there was so much killing.
Murder doesn't make money. Murder brings heat. So you really don't want to kill. You have to kill people. It's the nature of the beast.
Because that's the ultimate
sanction.
That's the ultimate sanction.
It's the ultimate sanction, and it reverberates.
Yeah.
Like you take a rock and you throw it in the middle of a calm, placid lake. What's going to happen? Ripples.
Mm-hmm.
So when you whack somebody, that ripples out into the gang world.
Are you given credit for being this kind of pioneer of moving the organization from just a prison gang to an integrated criminal organization dealing with street taxation and you know, extorting drug traffickers and things like that?
No, nobody's ever given me credit, but it's okay. I don't want credit. I know what I did. I mean, I don't need the pat on the back. I know what I did.
But you really were like one of the first guys to do that.
I was with Chuco Castro, Pee Wee Aguirre. But I would tell you this, it's those guys that really pushed it, right? Mm-hmm. The guys in the streets, Pee Wee Aguirre, a bunch of the associates, Gizmo Martija. He was like just a camarada, but he was pushing a hard line out there for Carnal Chuy Mariano Martinez, who died in Springfield, Illinois recently. But these guys were like progressive thinkers, right? I was the enforcement aspect. Came out of our head, and then we kind of refined it later. But it took a village to do this. I couldn't take sole responsibility for doing it because that would be like kind of megalomaniacal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, I did this. You know, I'm the king of the... I didn't. I never professed to be a genius or a top dog. I never even thought of myself as a leader of the organization. Mm-hmm. I was just a button. You know, I just went and did what they told me to do. And
well, who's they?
They are they. The carteles. Other carteles would tell me, hey, this has got to be done. And then we vote on it like, why?
Right.
Why? Well, he did this, he did that. How do you vote? All right, cool, let's do it. Like I was that dummy.
So you kind of go along to get along.
I was just a dummy. Yeah. You know, I told my past wife, I told her this. We're talking about something, and she says, how could you be so stupid to kill people who want to kill you? And it was this epifocal moment. I said, what the am I doing? Mm-hmm. You know, what am I doing? because these guys don't even like me. They put me on the hit list like 3 times. And I had never done anything wrong. That's the whole thing. Like, I had done things that 90% of the organization had never done. I killed for it. I willingly accepted life sentences for the organization. And to have dudes of questionable intellect and flawed moral turpitude question me as a cardenal. Mm-hmm. Certainly, I was no a pristine individual. Cardenales aren't that. But I know what I did for the organization. There's guys that are members now that have never picked up a knife for the organization, have never blown anybody's brains out, never done any of those things. And they're like in the hierarchy now. They're MESA members, and they're like the leaders of the. And I can't believe it. Like, that guy's never done anything. Mm. So I went through that period where I was questioning, like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Mm-hmm. It just didn't seem like it was equitable to me.
And ultimately, that's what you were saying. It's a cannibalistic organization. So even if you have all the juice and are calling shots for years, eventually you'll end up on the hit list. Oh,
certainly. Very few Mexican Mafia members go through unscathed. Unscathed. Like, never get into a political wrangle, never get politicked on, and they never end up on the hit list. They're just above and beyond that. I don't know how they do it.
Do you think, well, maybe they're cooperating? No.
There are some members that have cooperated.
Well, of course, but do you think there's any members that are cooperating for years the way that Whitey Bulger of the Irish mob was cooperating with the feds for like decades?
I know there are.
Wow. That are still in the organization.
Still in the mob.
It's wild.
Obviously, we can't speak of that, but
no,
it happens.
Okay, so tell us how that case, that double murder, got adjudicated.
So they go to this stage called the live slay stage in Los Angeles County Superior Court. It's when they determine whether the death penalty is going to be sought. And it's really based on a couple of factors. Victim relatability, sympathetic victim. Really, it's based on a lot of political stuff. So it's determined that they're not going to seek out, that they drop the death penalty off the table.
Okay, but you were found guilty.
No, I wasn't found guilty yet.
Okay.
The individual who went with us on one of those murders, I did the murders with one gun. The other gun we got rid of. But this gun, after I get done killing the Mexican Mafia member in the alley, I give it to him. I said, dispose of it. Go take it to the pier and throw it off the pier. He says, okay. He saves it. He buries it in his girlfriend's backyard. And later, he gets arrested for a robbery. And he tells the cops immediately, hey, all this stuff that's happening here, it's the Mexican Mafia. And it's Boxer Enriquez that's doing it. And I have everything. He flips right there to get out. They release him that day. He meets with Alan Carter, head of the Organized Crime Anti-Terrorism Division in Los Angeles County, and they cut him a deal, and he walks. He flips on us. We go through this process, and we're about a year, 2 years in the county jail. I've already picked up 2 stabbings, a weapons charge, narcotics distribution in the county jail. Picked up a bunch of different. I didn't care. I just didn't care anymore. It was as if I was trying to commit suicide by cop. Like, okay, you're going to wash me up? Let's really do it. I'm going to show you. And so we're in this process, and they approach us with deals. Anthony Avales, the guy who took the gun and saved it for his own get-out-of-jail-free card, ends up in a cell with somebody somewhere and tells them, yeah, I blamed all this on these mob guys, but I'm the one that did it. Impugns his own credibility. And that's disclosed to us later, so they start coming at us with deals. And they came at us with...
because he fucked up. Now they don't have a rock-solid case.
No. No. So they come at us with a deal where they're going to cut my co-defendant, Gilbert Reese, a manslaughter deal, no life tops. And they're going to give me 2 life sentences for 15 to life and a life without with the possibility for 20 years, plus a 5-year sentence for narcotics distribution. And I think about it, and we go back and forth, and at least one of us is going to survive. Mo's going to get out. And I tell him, you want to take the deal? He says, yeah, so let's do it.
And then back in that time, if you got 15 to life, did you actually, if you behaved, not that you were going to behave, but if you did change your life around, could you actually get out? Were they letting people out that had the L?
No.
Okay. So
Life
you're
was
washed
life.
up.
You're washed up.
Even if they say 15 to life, you're
If they said 6 months to life, you're not getting out of prison.
okay.
You
They
just-
changed that since then, I believe. They're letting guys. I think they're even letting LWAP guys.
So
out
many
now.
people. It's a great exodus right now. How do you think I got out of prison? The law's changed. I'm sitting right here.
Yeah.
No cuffs, no chains, no nothing.
Right.
I'm a free man
Okay.
because the law's changed.
But back then, so you're thinking, okay, life is life. I'm going to get life, but Mo will get out.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what we thought. So we take the plea bargain. And I remember right after I took the plea bargain, I went to sleep in the court holding tank, waiting for the chain. We called the bus the chain. Waiting for the chain back to the county. And I took a nap. I used a little roll of toilet paper for my pillow. And I remember waking up and every fiber of my being and my brain screaming, no, what did you do? This is it forever.
Right.
And I just like, I'm done. And I would have nightmares after that. I remember I'd wake up and not knowing where I was at. I'd wake up completely dumbfounded. I'd look around. I said, where am I? Then I'd see the jail bars. I said, oh, you're doing a life sentence. You're never getting out. And I'd be okay. That's what I was.
Yeah. Yeah, you did have moments of clarity, but most of the time you're right. It's like you just wanted to kill yourself.
I think that's later after I got transferred to Pelican Bay, I would shoot these huge amounts of dope. And I would end up on the floor. I remember one time I woke up on the floor. I had a hypodermic needle sticking out of my arm, and a cop was knocking on the bar. He says, René, you all right? And I woke up and I said, yep. He says, do not die on my watch. And he took off. I remember that distinctly.
Yeah.
I remember it distinctly. And I was like, they didn't care. They did not care. They just didn't want to do paperwork.
No.
So, yeah, and I think it was really a subconscious way of committing suicide. I didn't know it at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I was trying to end myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that seems it seems like what everybody who commits murder in front of a guard or, like these things, you're never going to get out of prison. They're going to keep putting you in smaller and smaller boxes. You're like rushing towards that. It is a way of slow suicide.
It is. I think the average individual doesn't realize that. I think it takes a certain point of maturity and development. Because really, when you go to prison, you're in this arrested development. You see a lot of guys still speaking like, "Órale, vato," and acting like kids and joking around like kids because they're in a state of arrested development. That's what their level of intellect was when they went in.
Right.
And they never progressed beyond that. But thankfully, I went to therapy, and I did years of therapy before I even got considered for parole. Did therapy, and I continued to do therapy. I go once a month. I have complex PTSD.
Yeah.
But I had to address the antisocial personality disorder with narcissistic tendencies, right? But I wasn't diagnosed as a narcissist, just ASPD, right? But I had to address that. It's like, well, how do I fix this? If I ever want to get out, I got to be able to address this, right? I got to know what's wrong with me. So I started studying AbPsych, GenPsych, taking all kinds of rehabilitative courses. And then the more I learned, the more I wanted to know, right? Like, oh man, that's why I do that, or that's what that's called. That's what free-floating anxiety is.
Mm.
That's why I was having panic attacks, and I didn't even know what they were. This overwhelming anxiety and sense of doom, and I didn't even know what they were. And I just put the facade up because Boxer from the Mexican Mafia was a facade, right? That was a facade. That wasn't René. Today I'm René. And that was just the image that I projected, like the alter ego.
Right.
So when I stripped that away, you start learning and you start developing. It's like I don't want to kill people anymore. I don't want to commit an act of violence. I don't want to harm anybody. I've been hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I saw it written somewhere. I said, well, one day you're gonna karma's gonna get you or something like that, and you're gonna know what it is. And I took all those victims awareness courses and reconciliation, and I thought I knew, like what reconciliation was. I wrote the letters. I sent them to the DA and the judge because you couldn't communicate directly with the family. It's like, I'm so sorry for what I've done. I'm not going to ask you for forgiveness because that's asking too much. I can only honor your loved one by continuing to do the right thing for the rest of my life. And I thought, okay, I'm cool with this victim stuff, right? Until my son got killed. And then it hit me. You know, it hit me like, it doesn't ever go away. And how many times have I done that to people? So I think the most important thing in my life is about just giving back to the community. And I do these interviews and my channel and everything that I do as a way to dissuade people. It's not a glorification. It truly isn't. It might sound like that when it throws a disgusting murder, but it's really about telling people like, bro, there's no life in this. I mean, if you choose to do this, hey, knock yourself out, bro. Be the best gangster you can be if that's who you are.
Right.
But I'm here to tell you, it ain't all that. And there's peace on the other side of this. You don't have to do what I did. You don't have to testify in all these cases. You don't have to do all those things. But if you just choose not to commit violence anymore and become a better person each day, like whatever it is, just to be a better person, right? I think that's important. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people can't get beyond that limited scope of thinking that, no, I got to live by the rules or I got to be a homeboy. And that's not life. That's doing life.
That's right. Okay, so it's 2003 when you decided to drop out. You remember the day where you were and tell us what led you. It had been leading to this for a while, but basically your life was in danger, and you were sick of it. So tell us how you went from leaving the MA to cooperating to then getting out.
So,
getting out of prison.
March 22nd, 2002, right?
Okay, 2002.
I get called out for medical. And it's a normal thing. You go in your boxers and your tennis shoes and your T-shirt, and they put you in waist chains. They walk you out there. But this is a little different that day. There's a bunch of guards out there. They're being very secretive. And they're all standing in the doorways to each cell block. And as soon as I step out of the unit, there's like 4 of them waiting right there, and they get around me. And they say, the secret squirrels want to see you. Secret squirrels being agents. And I thought it was IGI. I thought it was institutional stuff, which what it was at first. But I said, yeah, sure, no problem. But all this time, I'm going through this huge battle with my buddy, Daryl Baca. Daryl Baca is like my best friend, and we're trying to kill each other. I finally lost all support in the organization. And I know it's just a matter of time. I had already contemplated locking up. I even wrote a note one day in a cell. They had these things called requests for interview forms. I wrote, hey, man, I want to lock up. And then I became ashamed, and I ripped it up and said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to weather this storm. And then we tried a couple of times to stab each other. So this is when they hit me with this, right? I just got a visit, and they pull me out for medical, and I'm in medical. We do this weight, temperature, all that good shit, blood pressure. And then they walk me in there. And it's a little guy named Enriquez, a little cowboy. He's about 5'5". He's got a polo tie and got a big old chaw dip in his mouth. René, I know you're from the Army. I said, no, I ain't from the Army, right? And he starts talking to me. He said, yeah, I think you're in trouble and this and that. I said, no, you're tripping, bro. I'm not even from the mob. What are you talking about? You're not supposed to acknowledge the existence of the organization to the authorities. Mm-hmm. You're just not. It's a rule violation. Those unspoken rules, right? But he gives me a dip and a cup of coffee, and he said, well, let me show you, right? So he pulls out this thing out of his pocket. He gets it out, and it's a little recorder. It's a recorder, a little tiny one. He said, I'm going to let you listen to something. And I listened to it. It's my voice. It's my last visit where I'm saying, I'm so tired of this. What would you do if I wasn't this anymore? And he turns it off right there. That's all he played. He says, let me change your life. And I was like, whoa, that moment. Got a lump in my throat, like, because I knew I was going to do it. I knew I was going to do it. I told him, no, man, I'm not going to do it. But I was shaking. That belly, you ever get really scared and inside of your stomach shakes? You get that trembling? Yeah. I was doing that. And he opens up the freaking cell door, shakes my hand, and says, let me change your life. You could save lives. And I said, well, what does this entail? He already had Sacramento United States Attorney's Office, the director's office on the phone waiting for me. So he said, come out here. So we go out there, we get on the phone, talking to Special Agent Devin Hawks from the SSU, Brian Perry, the director of the SSU, and somebody else was on the line. And we start talking. He says, well, I don't believe it. I don't believe that you're going to do this. And how do we know you're not gaming us? I said, what are you talking about? And he says, hey, man, is anybody going to get hurt? We don't want anybody to get hurt. We know somebody's on the lista. Who's on the lista? So I tell him this guy and this guy, Angel Valencia and Chino Delgadillo, they're going to get whacked, right? And then I snap. I'm telling. Mm-hmm. I say, hey, I don't want to talk to you guys. I don't want to talk. And they calm me down. I guess they got like a psychological formula that they use to ease you down when you get jumpy, right? Because they start talking to me and soothing me. And then finally I tell them, I need immunity. I need immunity. I need attorney. I need this. I need that. I'm watching every movie that I'm thinking. I want Fifth Amendment. I want to invoke the Fifth. I'm doing all that, right? Mm-hmm. Like ridiculous Hollywood shit. This is calm down. This is right now. We've already moved your stuff. Unbeknownst to me, they already went to my cell and moved my stuff out. At that moment, everybody knew I had PC'd up. They didn't even have to hear from me.
Right.
They knew. Boxer checked in. Boxer checked in. So they said, we're going to move you over here to this location. It's safe. It's completely filled with debriefers. It's a PC unit. So we go through that process, and they moved me down there. The next day, I'm like, no, I want to go back. I don't want to do this. They come and see me. I said, no, man, this. I ain't no rat. I ain't doing this, right? I am not doing this. And they do this little process again, this little counseling thing, right? Everybody goes through this, chill, bro. And, you're having buyer's remorse. It's done. You can't go back. And slowly but surely, they start pulling me out every day, until finally FBI, United States Attorney, the Director of Corrections, they all fly up there. And we have a proffer. That's where you go through this real debriefing, right? And they're taking notes, FBI agents taking notes, like you see in the movies. Mm. They bring us a dignitary dinner. We have dinner. I have dinner with these guys. It's kind of weird,
What are you proffering? What are you talking
telling
about?
Everything you know about. Everything you know about. Because the proffer is to test the veracity of your sincerity and the credibility of what you're saying, right? It's like the veracity is everything. Because if you don't do that, then a defense attorney is going to get ahead of it and find out that you withheld. Because you thought you were going to incriminate yourself. But they have this process called Queen for a Day, right? So you have immunity for anything you say that day. So you dump it, you vomit it out, everything. You put it on the table because you got immunity for that.
So you can talk about cold cases if you want.
Cold cases, everything. Because they tell you when you get in, how'd you get in the gang, who did you know, what murders you know about, what stabbings did you do, what murders did you agree to, all that goes into your debrief. So you hear people saying like, oh, no, I debriefed, but I only told them myself, or I only did this, or I only did that. I only had to tell about this one shooting. That's not true. A real debrief is a real debrief. And that's what it entails. It entails cracking your chest open and saying, this is what I've done. So we went through that process. We'll be back. We're going to get a plane. We're going to come get you. And they flew me out. FBI flew me out to Long Beach from Pelican Bay. I stayed in a local facility for about 13 months with multiple debriefs. Then I was flown back. 9/11, all that stuff was, all the resources were going to domestic terrorism, and there was no Mexican Mafia indictment. So I got dropped off on a PCR at Lancaster. Started using dope, slinging dope. And then a couple of years into that, I relapsed. I'd been sober for a few years.
And what was the offer? Like you're checking in, you're dropping out of the gang, but they didn't make an offer to like get you out early, right?
There's no way they could have did that. At the time, California Penal Code 1170 D1 stipulated that you couldn't alter your sentence after 120 days. I'm 30-something years into this damn thing.
So you're just telling everything because you don't want to be part of the gang anymore. You're not proffering to like get out, to gain something for yourself, except for just staying safe and going to a PC yard.
Yeah, that's all I wanted was a PC yard. I didn't even testify at that point.
Right.
It wasn't even on the table.
Okay.
Right. Because I thought of that, like, is there a way you can reduce my sentence? There's nothing we can do. There's no federal statute. In the feds, they have federal rules of criminal procedure, Rule 35, FRCP Rule 35. At any time, the government can make an application for sentence reduction and get it granted, right? So you see guys with 1,000 years of the feds getting out. That's how it's done, right? But they couldn't take the existing state sentence and convert it to a federal sentence. It's just no way to do it. There was no legal mechanism available for that. I exercised. I hired attorneys. I had attorneys pointing to me. I had an attorney for 10 years that we tried every way to do this. There was no way to do it. So there was no deal. I couldn't cooperate my way out of prison. So that didn't exist. After I went back to Lancaster, a guy by the name of Jeff Bosket, DEA TFO, he's a task force officer, came up after they killed Jerry Ortiz, a Los Angeles sheriff in Hawaiian Gardens. They shot him. Gang members killed a deputy sheriff, and they said, hey, we want you for this case. And he flew a DEA Blackhawk up there and picked me up in Lancaster State Prison, flew me down to that same place that I originally debriefed at, and kept me there. And it started the process over 10 years where different agencies, Homeland Security investigations, DEA, ATF, FBI, a bunch of local and state prosecutors from various counties would ask me, hey, we want you to testify. We want you to testify. And
these are cases that they're making,
yeah.
right? Are they RICO cases mostly?
Some of them are RICO, some of them are RICO, some of them are state, some of them are 186.22, Step Act, the gang enhancements. Most of them are those, right? But I did.
And are these people that you know?
Some of them I did know, but the majority of the people, 99.9% of them, never heard of them. I was just coming in as a historic witness or a communications analyst, because I would get all the wiretaps collected from all these places, the ITMS system, and they give them to me and they say, René, find it.
So what are you getting out of this?
I'm just in a cell. What I ask, this is what I ask.
Yeah.
Because I have a vision, right? I have a vision. I know they can't get me out of prison, but they can document my cooperation. I said, look, I'd like a letter from you documenting my cooperation, not asking you to endorse my parole, other than to document the case that I worked on. And I did that, and I got over 100 letters from every agency you can think of. I debriefed for the State Department, U.S. State Department. I met with a CIA agent. I'm dead serious.
Wow.
I'm dead serious.
Wow. What do they want to know?
His thing was economics. Economics. In fact, they wanted me to write a curriculum for the business school of economics for USC. Marshall School of Business, I think it's called. Like one of the prestigious economic schools at USC. And I would have done it, but they wanted me to do it pro bono. I told them, get the out of here. You want me to write a manuscript for free? Get the out of here, right? This writing's hard for me, right?
Yeah.
I write, but I don't really like it. I'd rather speak, right? But I would have done it. It's like, so I met with every agency there is. Every agency, even met with people from other countries. And each instance, I'd ask them, document my cooperation. That's all I want. So for the first few years that I was being housed, and I was housed out of the CDC custody for like 10 years. Like I'm living in substations, and I'm living good, right?
What does that mean, substations?
It's a police station. That's where I live.
Really?
So they're moving me from location to location. Whatever agency I'm with, they have a location that they contract with or they have an agreement with where they can put me. Some were better than others. But it was like unlike anything I had ever experienced. I had big screen TV with computer games, and
so it's like an apartment
kind of like an apartment in a jail.
Right.
But I'm locked up.
Yeah.
I'm locked up. But they have the same thing in downtown Los Angeles for WITSEC, the official federal witness security program. It's underground in these tunnels. They have little apartments down there where people go down there and stay. So I'm living like that, and the California Board of Prison Hearings, which is the parole board, and the CDC start contacting my handlers. Hey, this guy's got a parole hearing coming up. And I tell them, nah, I pass. Tell them I pass, right? And I don't want to go. Until finally, after like 3 times I did this, an attorney contacts my handler, Jeff Boskin, and says, I need to see him. So he comes up and says, why are you refusing to go? I said, I don't think they're ever going to let me go. So I show him everything, all the documents and everything. all the stuff that I've done. And I still hadn't done like really in-depth therapy or rehabilitation. And he just looks at it and says, bro, you're a candidate. He said, don't you want to go home? He says, not. And they just started the great exodus in the CDC. They had created the elder law. They had all that stuff was coming into play, right? Where like a few thousand people had already paroled.
Right. People were getting out.
That was the very beginning of it, in 2014, 2015. And I said, okay, I'm going to go then. So I get my packet together, do my parole plans. I go and they deny me. And they say 3 years as a Lancaster. And I remember driving out of Lancaster after the denial. And I saw these rainbows, double rainbow, because it was a rainy day. And I read the Bible, right? I used to read the Bible voraciously. And I remember that Noah, after the big flood, remember he built the ark, and it flooded the earth, and God made a covenant. So I'm going to send a rainbow to you as a covenant, right? And I just thought about that. That's a covenant. And I went, after 18 months, I went back to the board and boom, they grant it.
Wow.
They grant my parole, right? And in front of Governor Jerry Brown. It's because here's the process. You go to the parole hearing. The parole hearing recommends your parole, finds you suitable. They then do an investigation. And then it goes to the governor's office, to this unofficial reversal panel to find out if you are politically viable to release. And then the governor will be made a recommendation, endorse it or don't endorse it. He can take 4 actions. He can take no action, which is 1. He could modify the finding. He could approve the finding, or he could reverse the finding. So I go through this process multiple times. With Jerry Brown.
And the governor does that for every inmate?
Every lifer that's a murderer.
Oh, okay.
It's a murder. There's only 4 states in the United States that do this. And California is one of them.
I see.
But I thought I was a shoo-in because 2 months earlier, Governor Jerry Brown sent the Attorney General, Kamala Harris's office. Got a letter signed by Kamala Harris, too.
Wow.
And Kamala Harris sends a representative down to see me, and they asked me to be an expert for Governor Jerry Brown because the state inmates in Ashker versus Brown, the big lawsuit that got them all released, the state was being sued. So I write a 22-page expert witness report for Governor Brown, and everything seems cool. I'm 28 days to parole. And for all intents and purposes, it seems like it's gone. But then Los Angeles Police Department Chief Charlie Beck asked me to do a training seminar for these swanky guys. They're called boosters. It's called the Young Presidents Organization, like all multimillionaires. So it's kind of like a business nightclub thing they take me to. And I do a presentation, contemporary business practices in the Mexican Mafia. And I do it. It goes down well. I'm giving away books, signing books. And one of the cops who's pissed off because he didn't receive overtime that day calls Channel 4 News. And as soon as we exit the building, cameras are everywhere. Helicopters are following us. And it just blows my whole cover. Jerry Brown reverses my parole. On the day after, they call me into the office. I'm at Lancaster State Prison. They say, hey, the governor's office just called. Looks like they're going to grant your parole tomorrow. And I'm like on cloud 9. Later that night, they call me to the office and says, the governor just took your parole.
It's because of how it looked?
Exposure.
The optics.
Yeah, the optics.
Like they're letting this repudiated mobster murderer out.
So they made me what is known as a PIC case, a public interest case, because the media would just slaughter me every time I went up for parole. Plus I had a book, and plus I'm a high-profile mobster. So that's a huge mountain to overcome. So I went through that process 5 times. But in the interim, each time they granted me, the governor would write called a reversal letter. Like, you lack insight. You failed to adequately articulate why you participated in so much violence, or you lack adequate parole plans. So each time he wrote this, I would study that as a roadmap for the future hearing. I would address those issues. And all the while I'm going to therapy. And as I went, I started to realize this, you know what? He's right. I can explain it. And so I started learning. And in therapy and rehabilitation, there's growth, right? there's growth. And let's get this clear. I firmly believe in rehabilitation. Like, I believe that any mobster has the ability to change. Like, I'm the poster child for never being let out of prison. Like, that's the guy who should have stayed in prison, René Enriquez, because he's a cutthroat killer, right? He's a turd. He's taking up good air. I was that guy. But if I could do it, then anybody could do it. So I don't try to keep them in prison. That's not my job. It's not my moral responsibility. They keep themselves in prison by continuing to participate in what they're doing, right? But they have the opportunity, because I had those tools available to me and I took advantage. I went to those seminars, as boring as they were, and some of them I didn't get anything out of. But I jumped through the hoops and I checked all the boxes. So ultimately, I had what is called a clinical risk assessment. It's a psych eval, right? And they found me low risk for recidivism. It's like the most glowing report that I could ever have, right? And I go to the board the 5th time, and the governor denies me again, 5 times in a row. And the hardest part was breaking my wife each time. Hey, we're going to get it, but expect a reversal, and then we're going to go through the appellate process. And I appealed twice and lost each time. A guy named Brian Williams, Superior Court judge out of Los Angeles, who just recently passed a colon cancer, would deny me each time. Conservative guy and pro-law enforcement. But the 6th time, I go and I get granted. And the 5th time, he reverses it again. And I challenge it in the courts. I go to the prison law office, and Laura Shepard, attorney out of San Diego, and I establish a little legal team. And they write a writ habeas corpus. Excellent writ. And Judge Ryan Williams sees it again. And they call me out for an interview. It's a case they want me to testify on. Because all this time, all these years, I'm going in and out of the prison system, going to testify on cases, right? And so I'm in the office for the gang investigators on a regular thing where I'm going to go out to court. So they're going to be calling you and talking to you, and they're going to pull you to court. Just so happens that day, my attorney calls the prison and says they need to speak to René Enriquez. And I'm with the gang investigators. He says, gets me on the phone. He says, hey, René. I said, what's up? And he says, congratulations. You won the writ. And it just hit me. Like I couldn't speak.
Yeah.
Just so emotional. And he says, hey, they're going to appeal it. They've already appealed it. They asked for a stay. Courts ordered them to release me immediately. But they asked for a stay of execution of on that order. So we might got maybe 2-3 years to go in the process of appealing, right? But I know we won.
Right.
We won. Just so happens I have another parole hearing coming up. Because after they deny you, they immediately schedule you within 18 months. And there's a lot of debate. Attorneys say, don't go. You have the grant already. Your writ's being granted. Why risk it? I go. Against my wife's wishes. Don't go. What if you do something wrong? What if you say something wrong? Because each parole hearing is different. Different commissioners, different personalities. And I get this dude named Robert Barton. Prick. Parole commissioner. Just tears me up, puts me under investigation, tears me up on a, and you can't defend yourself like you can on a witness stand. You're talking to a parole commissioner. You have to show humility, obedience, and there's all kinds of stuff you got to do, right? But I finally understand why he did it. He tears me up, puts me under investigation, and they postpone the hearing for 6 months. And all the while, I'm thinking, why the did I come to this hearing? Why didn't I listen to my wife? Why didn't I listen to my attorney? And I passed the investigation. And he grants my parole. And it's during this process that we're waiting for the appeal. I later found out that the Attorney General's office talked to one of my case agents. They were just at a function, social function for law enforcement. It says, hey, can you give me your opinion on something? And the Attorney General asked this of my handler. Didn't know it was my handler. Says, I got a case of this guy, René Enriquez, man, and we're kind of wobbling on it, whether we're going to proceed with it or not. What do you know about him? And my handler tells him everything about me. And soon thereafter, the governor decides to send me en banc. That means after that program, the board's recommended me. The governor gets the decision that says, you guys make a decision. And that's the finality of it. The en banc hearing, which is about 27 parole commissioners, voted unanimously to release me. And I got released 30 days thereafter.
Sheesh.
Monumental battle.
Yeah. Yeah, they did not want to let you out.
No, had to beat them.
Do you think that you would have got released without your cooperation?
Yeah, I think that everything that I did, I definitely think it helped. There's no doubt about that. I don't think there's an inmate in the history of the United States that's went to a parole board with the kind of law enforcement support that I had. I even had cops testifying in my parole hearings on my behalf. So I don't think there's another inmate that can provide that kind of support, right? Do I think it helped? Certainly it helped. Certainly it helped.
Maybe if you hadn't cooperated, you might have still got out. It just would have taken longer.
That, but it also came to hinder me. Both governors cited that my cooperation made me a target of the Mexican Mafia, and thereby threatening the public in the event that they shoot me in a public place. Another one was that I'm gaming the system, and how do they know my cooperation is sincere? Well, I'm thinking, after about 300 cases and 65 trials, when do you determine there's 65 judges and 65 juries that found me credible? And all of a sudden, you get a bright idea that I'm not credible. Now, your own governor's office utilized me as an expert witness, and you found me credible enough to represent you. And all of a sudden, it comes to this political decision, and I'm not credible. That's what really burned me up about the governor's office. That's what burned me up about that political process. I think that should be removed from any governor having the power and the ultimate power to reverse a decision for political purposes.
I agree. Did you have to testify against any formerly close carnales?
No, there's only been a couple of carnales that I was close to. Daryl Baca, Bueno Shai, Black Dan, Sammy Bialba. That's really it. Jaco Padilla, he was my friend. Mo was my friend.
Has anybody gotten out? Anybody that you used to run with? Any mobsters released?
Yeah. There's Roy Rivas, he paroled. In fact, I saw him in Lancaster. He was a dropout. I'm a dropout. I'm in Lancaster. And he's there, and it's cool. It's level 4 yard. All the PC gangs are there. They don't bother us. I never had a problem with those guys. They didn't like me, but that was okay. Nobody likes me, so it doesn't really bother me, right? Wow. I don't function based on people's perception of who I am. So Roy Boy was there, and I heard he got paroled a couple years after that, which gave me great hope, right? Then they paroled Mike Thompson, the AB guy, commissioner.
Coming in tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. So Mike Thompson gets paroled, and it really boosts my hopes. And then a couple other monsters like Alberto Lento paroles. A bunch of guys start paroling, right? They start paroling, and it still took that. They didn't have the profile that I did, the media, or social media profile. None of that. They didn't have any of those things. I had a digital footprint. And I think that's really a thing of my own doing. I wrote I collaborated in a book with Chris Blatchford, Black Hand, and that was bigger than life. And I think that bit me in the ass. I think that's what the governors were like. Okay, we're going to deny you.
Right, he's doing this to grandstand and make it all about himself.
Yeah.
So we have your face blurred out. What is your level of risk? How realistic do you think you are? Obviously, you're on the hit list for life. In today's day and age, do you still think they could reach out and touch you if they wanted to?
See that backpack right there?
Mm-hmm.
It's got a defense tool in there. That's how real it is. It's real.
Wow.
It's not fake.
Yeah, there's got to be some old homeboys sitting in the shoe somewhere that are, wanting to get their hands on you, right?
Look, I think the whole subculture has changed. I think that the complete understanding of the consequences of doing something like that is like immediate. Like to whack me, that's going to be world news. They're going to put it on every news channel everywhere. It's not going to be a small thing. And it's not going to be this thing where you're going to get away with it.
No.
You're not going to get away with it.
No.
But look, I've accepted that. Like, okay, that's part of what I signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not afraid because I can do as much damage as they can do. And I'm not going to be one of those guys who's just going to walk up, put a gun in my head and shoot me. I'm shooting back. You know, so if they want that smoke, okay. You know, I don't want it. I hope that I never see another gang member the rest of my life. And they live in peace and I live in peace. But if they come, one of us is not leaving. That's for sure.
Wow. And you have no more government protection? It's not like a WITSEC situation?
I have some layers of protection.
Okay.
I can't discuss those, but there are layers of protection.
Interesting. Is that for life or just a certain set time? Because you've only been home now 4 years.
For an extensive period.
Okay. You got out in 2022.
Yeah, July 30th.
Wow. Coming up on 4 years, which is like nothing.
It's everything, bro.
Of course it is, but it's
every
like
day.
You were inside for 32 years.
The terrible part is it didn't seem like that. It was like nothing. And now every day is an adventure. Like where I live at, we have a pool in the backyard, a jacuzzi, and I got my big old Cane Corso. I got a Cane Corso. Beast.
What is that?
Cane Corso?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
A lot of people call them cane Corsos.
A grill?
It's a dog.
Oh.
It's a beast, right?
I was like, it's either a barbecue or a dog.
No, I have one of those too. We have all that stuff in the backyard. Like, and I'm back there. I'm knocking down IPAs, and my wife's feet are dangling in the pool, and I'm smoking a nice cigar, and I got a good little buzz going on. And I look around. It's like an oasis back. They got little palm trees and banana trees and all that stuff. And I just took it in for the moment. Like, I'm free. Every freaking day. I never want to lose that feeling.
Yeah. Amen. Don't.
Oh, no.
Don't. Well, René, it's been a true honor. This just makes everything, all the stress of this podcast is worth it for interviews like this. So we'll promote your book and also your YouTube channel, which you're on YouTube killing it. So yeah, promote that first.
Yeah, my name is René Enriquez, and I do have a podcast called René Enriquez Uncensored. Please like, subscribe, join.
But tell us what you do a lot. It's interesting what you do. So just,
Well, my YouTube channel is all about revelation of mafia communications. I do mafia profiles. I talk about my personal experiences in debriefing, and I put it all out there. There's no warts untold, right? But one of the things we really do is we unpack intercepted communications, Title IIIs, videotapes, body cams, the whole 9 yards, real cases, real murders, real RICO cases, and all these players I know. I've either cooperated in these cases or been consulted on them, and I give my interpretation to the layman as to what's happening.
That's fascinating. So you can actually see that these people exist.
You know, the objective isn't like monetizing, but monetizing is important. I'm not even going to lie about that. I got to pay bills too.
Yeah.
You know, I got to pay bills. We all got to pay for gas. We all got to pay for taxes. We got to do all those things, right? So making money is important, but the real intent of my channel is to get the message out. Like the Black Can, it was like, if we can dissuade one person and stop them from participating or leave the lifestyle, then my job is done. So if by one of these videos, one of the active guys in prison sees it and says, I'm out. Even if I'm going to stay in prison forever, I'm going to live in peace. I don't have to kill anybody. That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really the objective of the channel.
So check that channel out. It'll be collabed with my channel on this episode. And then The Black Hand. It's a great book. It's wild that this shadow organization, this secret society exists, and in California, and really is probably the strongest mafia, homegrown mafia we have left in the United States.
Really, it's the predominant crime syndicate in California, and it's quickly growing. I think the unrealized potential of the organization hasn't even been seen yet. And if you look at it in terms of organizations, the mob is really in its nascency. Like you have Yakuza, been around 1,000 years, and thieves in law, they've been around about 700 years. You have Armenian Mafia, and all these other guys, right?
Yeah.
Been around for centuries. The Mexican Mafia has been here about 70 years.
Yeah.
And look at the advances it's made. Being based in prison. Think about when they get out and make it a society-centric organization where members are solely for the streets. I think it's unrealized potential. Real threat.
Yeah. René Enriquez, thank you so much, Cartel. Appreciate it, man.
It's been a pleasure, brother.
All right, you guys. We'll see you next time.